Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I never planned on working for a pizza joint into my late 20s. Honestly, I thought I'd be out by 21. But life doesn't always let you pick your chapters. Sometimes it slaps one into your hands and says, "Read this, idiot." People who don't work in food service think pizza delivery is just cruising around with free music and free tips. Yeah. No. It's late nights, weird customers, bad neighborhoods, and enough awkward driveway moments to last 3 lifetimes. But my place, Firewheel Pizza Co. down in Cedar Falls, Oklahoma, was different. We had a reputation, a promise, a goddamn sacred rule. 0 wrong orders. Our manager, Ronnie, a 40-year-old ex-high school linebacker with a mustache thicker than his patience, hung a giant red sign behind the counter. 237 days without a mistake. If anyone messed up, the sign reset to 0, and whoever caused the mistake had to do the forfeit. Some were funny, like wearing a tutu for a shift. Some were hell, like washing every greasy vent hood alone at 2 a.m. We took that sign seriously. Too seriously, if you ask me. But it kept us sharp. And I wasn't just a driver. I'd been there the longest, 7 years total, on and off between real jobs, failed dreams, and a breakup that hit me harder than I'll ever admit. So yeah, Firewheel Pizza Co. became my weird little world. My co-workers were my second dysfunctional family. Jordy, the sarcastic, vape-obsessed shift leader. Talia, who punched dough the way most people punch their ex. Reese, the cashier whose anxiety was legendary. And me, just me, the long-timer, the one everyone assumed had seen everything. I really thought I had. Until the night I delivered to Aubrey Haskins, a name I will remember until the day I die. It started at 4:52 p.m., a slow Wednesday. I was leaning against the soda fridge scrolling on my phone when the ticket printer started coughing out orders again. "Yo, old man," Jordy called. "You're up." I'm 29. Jordy is 22. He thinks that's a huge difference. Idiot. I walked over and pulled the receipt. 3 items. 1 large cheese pizza, extra mozzarella garlic knots, house salad, no tomatoes. Name on the ticket, Aubrey Haskins' address, Hickory Bend Lane, a quiet, clean suburb. "Easy run," I muttered. Talia slid the pizza into a box and said, "Check the toppings. You know Ronnie'll cry if the board resets today." I checked. Double cheese, golden as hell, strings pulling like a cheese commercial. Perfect. I bagged everything, grabbed the insulated carrier and headed out to my beat-up charcoal gray Honda. The sun was starting to set, a soft orange fading behind the trees. Oklahoma evenings hit different. Quiet, still, like the world's holding its breath. I didn't know then I should have taken that as a warning. Hickory Bend Lane looked peaceful. The kind of place where people leave their garage doors open and trust their neighbors. I pulled into the driveway and spotted a woman unloading a trunk. 2 kids hopped out, one maybe 10, the other 8. The woman turned around when she heard my car door shut. She had this perfectly styled bob haircut, expensive workout clothes, and a face that looked like it could cut glass if she glared too hard. "Hi there," I said politely, holding the warm bag. "Firewheel Pizza, Aubrey?" She exhaled sharply, like my existence was an inconvenience. "You're early," she snapped. I blinked. It's 5:14. Our ETA was 5:20. Early is usually good." She narrowed her eyes. Her left eyelid twitched, not joking, actually twitched. Her son whispered to his sister, "Mom's gonna freak." Aubrey shot him a death glare so sharp I felt my spine straighten. I handed her the garlic knots. She opened the box instantly, and she stared. Hard, like she expected to find a rat doing yoga inside. She sniffed them. She pinched one between her nails like it was radioactive. "They're fine," she said reluctantly. "What about the salad?" I passed it over. She opened it. studied every leaf individually. It said no tomatoes, she said. There aren't any, I replied. I know, she hissed. I'm making sure you know. Sure. Okay. Totally normal human behavior. Finally, she lifted the lid on the pizza box. Steam drifted into the air, carrying that perfect buttery, cheesy smell every pizza lover knows. The kids lit up. Yes, the boys said. Cheese explosion. But Aubrey, her face turned red. Not embarrassed red, not tired red, psychotic red. There is no ham on this pizza. I stared at her, confused. She ordered double cheese, nothing else. Right, because it wasn't on the receipt, I said carefully. Her voice dropped to a deadly whisper. I ordered ham. I know what I ordered. I turned the receipt so she could see. Large cheese, extra mozzarella. Her eyes went wide with fury. Are you calling me a liar? No, ma'am, I ordered ham, she roared so loud her son flinched. Her daughter tugged her sleeve. Mom, it's okay. We like it plain. No, we do not. The girl started crying. The boy stepped back like he'd seen this movie before. I felt the first prickle of unease. Something was off. The kind of off you feel in your chest before something bad happens. I swallowed. Ma'am, we have a policy. If we messed anything up, even one topping, you get the whole order for free. Aubrey stared at me with such hatred, it was like I'd confessed to poisoning her dog. I do not want it free, she screamed. I want the ham. And then, she threw the entire pizza box at my face, full force. Hot cheese slapped my cheek. The cardboard hit my nose. I stumbled back, swearing under my breath. Her kids screamed. Her daughter yelled, Mom, stop. Aubrey pointed at me with shaky hands and shrieked, You ruined my night! You ruined everything! I wiped the melting cheese from my skin and took a breath. I can go back and make another one, no cost, just relax. She cut me off by rushing at me, actually charging. Her manicured nails flashed in the last bit of sunlight like claws. I threw my arms up. She slashed at my face, dragging her nails across my cheek hard enough to sting. Hey! I shouted. Lady, stop! Her son cried out. Mom, no! Please, no! But she didn't stop. She went for my eyes next. I squeezed them shut and felt her nails graze my brow. I heard footsteps pounding from a distance. A voice shouted, Back off, crazy! Something huge and heavy slammed into Aubrey from the side. It was a woman, a neighbor I'd never seen, broad-shouldered, wearing a faded Metallica shirt, tattoos on both arms. She straight up tackled Aubrey into the recycling bins. Cans rattled. A plastic jug flew. Aubrey screamed like an animal. The neighbor grabbed her wrists and yelled, Call the damn cops now! The son bolted toward a house yelling for someone named Mr. Henley. I stumbled backward, breathing hard, my face burning where her nails hit. Aubrey shot up again, fast, and sprinted toward the neighbor holding something shiny. Her keys. She held them between her fingers like a weapon. A makeshift shank. Nope, I whispered. Not happening. I lunged on instinct, grabbed her arm mid-swing and shoved hard. I don't know what I did exactly, panic gives you weird strength, but she folded, gasping, and fell onto the lawn. The kids cheered. Again, absolutely real. The neighbor sat on her firmly until police cars pulled up. The officers separated us, took statements, photographed my scratched cheek, and pulled Aubrey into the back of a cruiser. She didn't stop screaming the entire time. You think you're safe? You think this is over? I know what I ordered. Then the husband arrived. Her ex-husband, Sawyer Haskins. A tired-looking man in a wrinkled suit, hair messed up like he'd run through the wind. He gathered his kids instantly, hugging them tight. The daughter pointed at me. She scratched his face, Daddy. Sawyer looked at me with a silent apology, like he'd lived this 100 times. I'm sorry, he said quietly. She hasn't been well. One of the cops nodded. We're aware. Came up last month too. Later, Sawyer explained. Aubrey had fallen deep into an addiction. Prescription meds mixed with energy pills. A divorce, court battles, emotional breakdowns, violent episodes. And tonight was her lowest spiral yet. I just happened to be the unlucky soul at her doorstep. Aubrey didn't go to prison. She ended up in a psychiatric facility for treatment. The kids went with their father permanently. The neighbor, Donna Ray, became a regular at Firewheel Pizza. She'd walk in like, "What's up, Scarface?" when I only had a tiny scar, still counts. Ronnie, surprisingly, didn't make me do the forfeit. He said, "Hell, kid, getting ninja clawed is punishment enough." We reset the sign anyway. 0 days without a mistake because technically, yeah, the ham wasn't there. But none of us joked about it that night. Something about seeing that kind of raw chaos hits different. It sticks to you. Every time I drive at dusk now, there's a moment, just a flicker, when I slow down, glance around, and remember the rage in Aubrey's eyes. All over one missing topping. One mistake. One human error. It's weird how close you can come to real harm from something so small. So stupid. So forgettable for everyone except the one person who lived it. Me. I still deliver pizzas. I still check every order twice, sometimes 3 times, because you never know which doorstep is normal and which one hides a bomb waiting to go off. I've been a pizza delivery driver for almost 9 years now, and let me tell you something real simple before anything else. I don't scare easy. Not after everything I've seen on the road, in people's homes, in sketchy neighborhoods at 1 a.m., with nothing but my delivery bag and $20 in my pocket. Once a drunk guy tried to pay me with a live chicken. Another time, I walked in on a couple screaming at each other so loud the only thing louder was the gunshot that went off in the backyard. But nothing, and I mean nothing, comes close to what happened that night in Ridgebrook, Pennsylvania. I swear on my life, I can still hear the sound of that man's voice when I close my eyes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Let me tell you where all this started. My name's Tucker Hale, 28, and after dropping out of community college, because I really wasn't cut out for online accounting classes, no matter how many times I told myself I could push through, I took a job at Slice Street Pizza, a small mom-and-pop pizza place tucked between a vape shop and a shuttered Radio Shack. The sort of place that smells like burnt mozzarella and bleach, where the floor tiles are older than the teenage employees pressing dough in the back. But it paid, barely. And tips sometimes saved my ass. My manager, Reggie Barnes, always said the same thing. "Tuck, people get weird after midnight. If you gotta deliver past 12, keep your engine running and don't take cash from anybody who can't look you in the eyes." The man acted like these were gospel verses. We had our regulars, stoners, tired nurses from the clinic, old couples who couldn't sleep and wanted something hot to eat. Nothing unusual. At least, that's what I thought. It was a Thursday night in late October, the kind where the air feels like cold needles against your cheeks. I remember it because the Phillies had just lost the playoff game, and Reggie was pacing around like someone stole his truck. I was the only delivery driver on shift. The other guy, Bryson, had called out last minute, claiming he sprained his back sneezing. Yeah, right. Around 11:43 p.m., the lobby phone rang. Reggie picked up and shot me this weird look. Not scared, just confused. "Yeah, we deliver," he said into the phone. "Uh-huh. Yeah. Address? You sure? All right. That'll be about 40 minutes. He hung up, scratched the back of his head, and muttered, "Damn, that's a weird one." "Where to?" I asked, pulling zip ties off pizza boxes. Reggie read the address again from the ticket. 47 Brookside Lane. House at the dead end. No porch lights. Customer wants a large pepperoni, extra crispy, and a 2-liter of Coke. Paid cash. "Okay," I said. "What's weird?" Reggie leaned in. "That place? Tuck, that road's been empty since the fire." I blinked. "What fire?" "Before you joined us. Big one. Whole end of the road went up. They said it was electrical. House hasn't been lived in for years." So what, somebody moved in? He didn't look convinced. Maybe, or maybe it's some idiot messing with us. He handed me the pizza bag anyway. Be careful. I shrugged it off. I'd gone to worse places. But something about the way he said it stuck with me as I headed out into the night. My car, a beat-up 2009 Honda Accord with mismatched doors, coughed to life. The sky was foggy, like the world was holding its breath and the streets were emptier than usual. As I drove through Ridgebrook, street lamps flickered like dying fireflies. Even the air felt heavy. I rolled down the window a crack. The cold slapped me instantly. Damn, I muttered. Feels like the whole town's asleep. The GPS went crazy when I turned onto Brookside Lane. The screen glitched, spun, then froze completely. Great, I said. Perfect. Only 2 houses had lights on. The others were dark, boarded, or half collapsed. It looked like a neighborhood waiting to die. The dead end was pitch black. My headlights washed over the mailbox. 47 Brookside Rusty. Bent. Cobwebs. I slowed the car. And then I saw him. A man was standing on the porch. Tall, thin, motionless. He wore what looked like an old delivery jacket, one that wasn't from any place that existed anymore. I could see faded letters on the chest. Hot and ready courier. That chain died out in the late 90s. He wasn't moving, not waving, not coming closer, just standing there. All right, I muttered. Creepy, but whatever. I grabbed the pizza bag and Coke and stepped out. The leaves on the ground crunched unnaturally loud. The house smelled like burnt wood and something sour, like rotten fruit. Hey man, I called. Order for, I checked the ticket. Order for Clay Ford? The man didn't respond. He just tilted his head slowly like a puppet. It scraped my nerves instantly. Up close, I noticed more. His jacket was torn at the sleeve. His left pant leg was muddy, the wrong shade of muddy, as if it had been dragged through old dirt. And his one visible hand looked burned. I forced a smile. Large pepperoni, extra crispy, and your Coke. He finally spoke, but the voice, it sounded like someone talking through broken glass, raspy, forcefully calm, like he was imitating a human. Did you enjoy your shift? I blinked. Yeah, I guess. You want to take the pizza? He didn't take it. Instead, he leaned forward slightly. Can I ask you something, driver? Sure, I said, trying not to step back. His eyes were wrong. One looked normal. The other was either damaged or missing. Do you ever hear things, he whispered, in the back of your car when you're alone? The hair on my arm shot up. What? I said quietly. He continued, voice shaking like static. Little knocks. Under the seats. Someone whispering your name. No, I said firmly. Look, man, if you don't want the pizza, I'll... He suddenly stepped forward. Fast, too fast. I stumbled back. He raised his hand like he was pointing to something behind me. You shouldn't have come, he said in a low voice. Not tonight. My breath caught. What? Why? His mouth twitched into something that wasn't a smile. They already placed the order. And you're the last one who delivers after midnight. What are you talking about? I whispered. He took a shaky breath. You need to listen to me, driver. When you turn around, do not open the box. A cold blast of air hit the back of my neck. Why? I asked, but he didn't answer, because something else did. Behind me, from the direction of my car. Knock, 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 on my backseat window. I spun so fast my shoes slid on the concrete, but there was nothing there. Just my empty car. The man on the porch sucked in a trembling breath. They're early. Who's early? I hissed. He nodded toward the pizza box. They follow the heat, the food, the drivers. It's always the drivers. I stepped back. Nope. Hell no. I'm leaving. But before I turned, he reached out and grabbed my wrist. His hand was ice, like freezer ice, like he hadn't been warm in years. His voice cracked. "Don't eat it." My heart dropped. "What?" He pointed at the pizza box. "Someone always tries, and they always end up like me." I stared at him. "Like you? What the hell happened to you?" He looked toward the side of the house, eyes widening. "They're here." And then, knock, knock, knock. This time on the hood of my car, hard, metal shaking. I backed away, pulling from his grip. The man whispered, "Go, go now." I sprinted. I threw the pizza bag into the car. The moment I slammed the door, something thudded against the back bumper. I didn't look. I reversed so hard the tires screamed. The man was still on the porch, staring at me with that single eye as I sped off, fog swallowing him up. And just before the road curved, I swore I heard him shout, "Don't look in the box." Every instinct I had was screaming at me to pull over and catch my breath. But I didn't. I couldn't. Every shadow on the road looked like something moving, something following. Sometimes I swore I heard tapping inside the bag. By the time I reached the shop, I was drenched in sweat. I burst through the back door. Reggie looked up. "Tuck, what the hell happened?" I dropped the pizza bag onto the prep counter. "You need to see this," I said, shaking. He frowned and opened the bag. Slowly, carefully. The pizza box inside looked normal. No dents, no scratches. Reggie shot me a look. "Tuck, you good? You look like you saw a ghost." "Open it," I whispered. He rolled his eyes and flipped the lid, and recoiled so hard he hit the wall. "Holy Jesus, what the hell?" Inside wasn't pizza. Not anymore. It was rotten, black, crawling. Maggots swarmed the crust. The cheese had melted into some foul-smelling sludge. The pepperoni had turned into these blistered, bubbling pockets like skin infections. Reggie gagged. I turned away. Then he noticed something else. Scratched inside the lid, with something sharp. "Don't deliver again." Reggie stared at me, pale. "Tuck, who wrote that?" I swallowed hard. "The customer," I whispered. Or whatever the hell that thing was. Reggie slammed the box shut. "That's it. We're done delivering tonight." I nodded. I was already taking off my apron. "Yeah, I'm going home." As I walked to my car, a cold breeze rushed past me, carrying a faint smell of smoke. And something else, whispering, my name, soft, broken, like someone speaking through cracked teeth. "Tucker." I froze. Slowly looked back. There was no one in the lot. Just my beat-up Honda sitting under the dead streetlight. Even now, I don't know if I imagined it, or if someone was standing just outside the edge of the dark, watching, waiting for the next driver. They always wait for the drivers. I quit 2 weeks later, haven't delivered a single box since, but sometimes, late at night, I swear I still hear knocking on the backseat window. I've been delivering pizzas in Ridgeway, Pennsylvania for almost 5 years now, and in that time I've seen some real weird shit. Drunk dads answering the door in tighty-whities, stoner kids giving me quarters covered in bong water, old ladies who swear they didn't order anything but still argue for 10 minutes about coupons, but nothing comes close to what happened on Hollow Creek Road. People always think delivery work is easy, drive, knock, smile, hand off the food. But it's a job that forces you into people's lives for one tiny moment. You see how they live, how they talk, what they hide. And I learned early on that you can't judge a damn thing by the outside of a house. Before I tell you what happened, there's something you should know about me. My name is Jalen Rowe. I grew up poor as hell. Mom working double shifts at a diner. Dad gone before I could remember him. I started delivering pizzas at 17 just to help with rent, thinking it'd be temporary. But life has a funny way of sticking you where you don't expect. Tonight started like any other rainy Friday. Ridgeway gets rain like it's cursed. Fat, freezing drops that hit the pavement so hard they bounce. The kind that makes your shoes squeak for the rest of the night. Inside Big Jake's Pizza, the ovens hummed, the heat pushing against the storm coming in every time the door opened. My coworker Lori tossed dough in the air, cursing under her breath. "Storm's gonna kill tips tonight," she said. "People don't tip in the rain. They think you're waterproof." "I'll be happy if my breaks survive," I said, grabbing a delivery slip. "Order: 1 extra large sausage and onion, 1 garlic knots. Address: 1129 Hollow Creek Road. Customer name: Elora Wynn, Hollow Creek Road." I froze for a second. Nobody orders from there. The entire street is basically woods, swamp, and 2 abandoned barns. And 1 house, if you can call it that. Folks in town whispered about it sometimes, but nobody knew the real story. "You good?" Lori asked, sliding the box across. "Yeah," I lied. "Just not a fan of that area." She shrugged. "Take the company flashlight. That place has like 2 streetlights, and both of them flicker like they're possessed." Not helping Lori. But I still grabbed the bag, pulled up my hood, and headed out into the rain that felt like needles on my skin. The farther I drove from town, the darker everything got. Streetlights turned from bright white to a sickly yellow glow. The radio static grew louder until it drowned out the music. By the time I turned onto Hollow Creek Road, my GPS flickered like it was dying. Figures. The asphalt turned rough, cracked, wet, covered in fallen branches. My wipers struggled to keep up with the rain. Every tree along the road leaned toward my car like they were whispering secrets. And then I saw it. The house, if you could even call it one. Set back behind a rusted gate, the place looked like it had been built in the 40s and never touched again. The porch sagged. Windows were boarded from the inside. A single porch light flickered like it was fighting for its life. "Why the hell is someone even living here?" I muttered. But an order's an order. I parked, grabbed the pizzas, and stepped out into the rain. The gate was half open, creaking in the wind. I walked through, shoes sinking into the mud. Halfway up the yard, I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. From the porch. I froze. But it wasn't footsteps. It was nails. Tapping slowly against wood. A shiver ran down my spine. "Hello?" I called. No answer. I got closer and the tapping stopped instantly, like whoever it was heard me. I stepped onto the porch. The boards groaned under my weight. Before I could knock, a woman's voice drifted through the door, soft, sweet, and trembling with excitement. "Just a moment, sweetheart." Something felt off. Way off. Her voice had this shaky, breathy quality, like she was trying to sound gentle but didn't remember how. The doorknob rattled, then slowly turned, and the door opened. The woman standing there was tall. Too tall. Around 6 feet, maybe more. She wore a faded blue dress that looked like it belonged to someone else, someone smaller. Her shoulders stretched the seams. Her arms were long and pale, veins visible under the skin. Her hair was a wig. I could tell instantly, dirty blonde sliding to one side. Her makeup was smeared across her face like it was put on in a moving car. Red lipstick covered more cheek than lips. Foundation caked in thick layers that cracked when she smiled. But it was the smile that hit me hardest. It didn't reach her eyes. It didn't even look human. "Oh my," she said. "You're much younger than I thought." Extra large, sausage and onion?" I said, voice shaking more than I wanted. Her eyes lit up. Yes, darling. Come inside. You must be soaked." "I'm fine here," I said quickly. Her smile twitched, then stiffened, then dropped completely. "You don't want to be rude, do you?" she asked, voice lowering. No, ma'am. I just... company policy. Can't step inside." Her expression shifted, slowly, unnervingly, as if she had to think through what a normal reaction was supposed to be. "Oh, policy," she repeated. Then she laughed, high-pitched, too high. "Come, sweetheart, I'll give you a tip, a very special tip." She stepped forward. I stepped back. "I can take payment right here," I said. "Cash or card?" Her face changed again. This time, it hardened. Her voice dropped an octave, all sweetness gone. "You boys," she growled, "always think you can stand there and judge me." I swallowed, hard. "I'm not judging anyone." "Oh, but you are," she hissed, "just like the others." She reached for me. Her hand was huge, fingers long, nails bright red but chipped. One nail missing, showing a jagged, bitten-down finger. I stepped back again. She stepped forward. Rain hammered the porch. The light flickered. "Ma'am, please, call me Elora," she whispered. "Everyone does. Everyone who comes here." I just need the 31.70, I stammered. "Elora has something better than money." Before I could react, her hand shot out and grabbed my sleeve. Strong. Too strong. Her grip felt like iron. "Get inside," she said. "Let go." I yanked my arm hard. She stumbled a bit but didn't fall. Her wig shifted fully to the side now, revealing patches of uneven dark hair underneath. Her lipstick smeared even more as she grinned wide. "The other boys struggled too," she said through her teeth. "But Elora takes care of them. They always scream at first." I threw the pizza bag into her chest and bolted down the steps. Behind me, I heard the screen door slam open, then heavy footsteps. "Come back here," her voice boomed, deep, masculine, furious. "You haven't thanked me yet." I ran through mud that nearly swallowed my shoes. My keys slipped from my hand once, twice. Rain in my eyes, in my mouth, my heart pounding so hard I almost heard nothing else. But I heard her footsteps. God, did I hear them. Not running. Charging. I practically dove into my car, slamming the door shut as she reached the driveway. Her palm slapped the rear window so hard the glass shook. I turned the key. The engine coughed, coughed again, then roared to life. I reversed so fast I nearly hit a tree. She stood in the middle of the road, drenched, wig in one hand, makeup streaking like blood, dress clinging to her huge frame. She screamed after me. "You boys always beg for your tip when I'm done with you." I didn't look back again. I drove straight to the Shell station off Route 219, parked under the bright fluorescent lights, and called the police with shaking hands. They went to the house. They found nothing. No woman, no wig, no makeup, no dress. But they found something in the back room. A rack, filled with delivery uniforms from all over the county. DoorDash, Papa John's, Domino's, local places I'd never heard of. All cleaned, all pressed, all sized for young men. And in the corner, a glass jar, filled with driver's licenses. I recognized two faces immediately. Guys I knew from another shop. Guys who'd gone missing last year. The police told me to go home and not talk about it. Small towns hide things. Always have. I quit the next morning. Now I work at a desk in a bland office, drinking burnt coffee and listening to customers yell through headsets. It's safe. But some nights, when the rain hits the windows hard and the lights flicker just a little, I swear I hear her voice again. Sweet at first, then deep, broken, hungry. "You never got your tip, sweetheart. And God knows, I never want it." I never thought my life would go off the rails over a damn pizza run. I'm Irvin Walker, 22 at the time, living on the west side of Clover Ridge, Indiana, one of those quiet-ass Midwestern towns where everyone waves at each other, even if they secretly hate each other's guts. My life wasn't glamorous. I wasn't some hero. I wasn't some troubled kid either. I was just a dude paying rent and trying not to drown under bills. And yeah, I worked delivery for Rusty Brick Pizza, a rundown family-owned joint with flickering neon lights and a giant fiberglass slice on the roof that squeaked whenever the wind hit it. People always think pizza delivery is nothing but laughs, tips, and burned cheese. But anyone who's worked the late-night shift knows the truth. The real weird shit happens when the streets get empty. But before I get to the night everything went to hell, I gotta do right by the people involved and tell you how it started. Because none of this makes sense without knowing the people behind it. Real name, Radoslav Rado Vukic. A Serbian immigrant, maybe around 68, skinny but strong in that wiry old diesel engine kind of way. He talked like life had beaten him with a metal pipe, but he still smiled at you anyway. Irvin, my boy, oven is life. Oven is truth. Oven shows character. He was rough, funny, and warm. He'd slap my shoulder every shift, tell me stories from back home, most of which sounded like they belonged in a war documentary, not a kitchen. He treated me like a son. Hell, in some ways, better than my real father ever did. 2. His son, Luca. Not the friendly type. Luca didn't smile, didn't joke, didn't explain shit. He was built like a fridge with arms, tattoos running up his neck, and a voice low enough to make the cash register rattle. He wasn't evil, just cold, all business. Always watching the door, always checking his phone. Rumor around town was that Luca was into some heavy side business. I didn't pry, wasn't my lane. I needed the job, needed the money, and Rado kept things light between us. 3. Me, I was the good kid who didn't want trouble. But Rusty Brick wasn't just a pizza shop. It was a place where the wrong people came around the back door, whispered to Luca, grabbed a padded envelope, and disappeared. I wasn't dumb, but like I always told myself, not my stuff, not my problem. Spoiler. I was wrong. It was a Friday, the kind where the whole town seemed drunk, loud, and alive. The air smelled like beer, burnt rubber, and someone's backyard barbecue. A typical Midwest night. We were swamped. "Irvin, order ready. Table ticket 214, Rado shouted from the kitchen, sliding a box across the counter. I grabbed the pizza bags, keys, and order slip. Normal run. Just another night, except it wasn't. Because right as I was about to head out, Luca stepped in front of me. "Take this too." He slid a padded envelope across the counter. Thick, heavy, but different from the weed-smelling ones I'd discreetly handed off before. This one felt dense, metallic, serious. "Where's it going?" I asked. "Same address as the pizza. Don't open it, don't ask, don't talk." Rado overheard and stiffened. He didn't say anything, but he shot Luca a look I'd never seen before. A worried look, a scared look. "Irvin, if something is wrong, you leave. You leave fast. You hear me, boy?" I nodded, should have listened better. When I reached the street, Bourbon Hollow Road, my stomach dropped. There was no house. Only an abandoned manufacturing plant, windows smashed, metal siding ripped like someone pulled it off with their bare hands. The place had been shut since '98 after a fire killed 3 workers. Nobody lived there. Nobody ordered pizza there. I double-checked the slip. Right address. Right time. "Damn it," I muttered, scanning the dark building. The wind whistled through the broken windows like the place was breathing. It smelled like rust, smoke, and old memories that refused to die. "Nope," I whispered. "Hell nah. Not tonight." I reached for my phone. No signal. Figures. Bourbon Hollow was a dead zone. Still, I tried calling the shop from my van's radio phone. No answer. Tried again. Nothing. That's when the lights inside the dead factory flickered on, one by one, like someone was walking deeper inside with a flashlight. And I heard it. A metallic thunk. 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 Like boots stepping on old metal grates. Someone was in there. I should have driven away. But Rado's voice echoed in my head. "If something is wrong, you leave, and you leave fast." And something was wrong. Very wrong. I stepped inside anyway. The air was thick, dusty. My own footsteps echoed back at me from every direction. "Hello?" I called. "Pizza delivery." My voice cracked like I was 13 again. Somewhere in the shadows, someone chuckled. Not a happy chuckle. A slow, deliberate, gotcha kind of laugh. "Back here," a voice rasped. "Bring the goods." My hands tightened around the pizza bag. I forced myself forward. A lantern hung from a metal beam, casting a sickly orange glow. In the middle of the room were 3 men, big, silent, masked. Behind them, tied to a metal support beam, gagged and beaten, was Rado. My heart just stopped. His face was swollen, blood dripping down his shirt, one eye barely open. But he recognized me. He saw me. He shook his head violently, a warning. "Don't bring that over here," one of the masked men growled. "Set the envelope on the crate." I took a step back. No, I'm not part of this. I'm just delivering." One man raised a gun, a big one. "Put it down," Rado screamed into his gag, thrashing. But before I could move, before I could even breathe, a gunshot exploded from behind me, then another, then another. The masked men dropped like sacks of meat. One fell face first at my feet, blood pooling out fast. Behind me stood Luca, chest heaving, gun smoking in his hand. "Get him free," he snarled. I ran to Rado, fingers shaking, undoing the knots with whatever strength I had left. Rado collapsed into my arms. "Papa," Luca whispered, voice cracking for the first time ever. And then, lights, voices, shouting. More men were coming, a whole crew. "Luca," I hissed, "we gotta fucking go." He lifted his father like he weighed nothing. "Come," he growled. "Now." We sprinted through the factory, ducking behind old machinery as bullets cracked through rusted metal. The place lit up like a battlefield. I didn't look back. Couldn't. We burst out a side door, dove into Luca's truck, and sped away, tires screeching. Nobody spoke. Rado coughed blood into a towel. Luca's jaw clenched, tears mixing with sweat on his cheeks. And me? I was shaking so hard I could barely breathe. By morning, the pizzeria had a closed indefinitely sign on the door. Lights off, neon slice gone. Luca met me in the parking lot of a diner at sunrise. His eyes were red, broken. He handed me a thick brown envelope. "Take this. You leave Clover Ridge today. Don't come back. Don't ask about me. Don't look for my father." "What happened to Rado?" I whispered. Luca swallowed hard. "He's gone." My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry," I choked out. "You were good to him," Luca said quietly, "and that's why you'll stay alive." He gripped my shoulder. "Go, Irvin, you never saw anything." And that was it. I left, moved 3 states away, started a quiet life, never checked the news, never asked questions, and never touched another pizza shop kitchen again. Sometimes late at night I swear I still smell the ovens, still hear Rado laughing. And sometimes I hear that gunshot again. I never thought delivering pizza would be the kind of job that sticks with you for the rest of your life. But here I am, years later, still waking up some nights with my heart pounding against my ribs like it's trying to break out. I grew up in a tiny coal town just outside Warrenton, West Virginia, place where the mountains come right up against old houses and the fog gets so thick you swear it can choke you. My childhood wasn't anything special. My mom worked back-to-back shifts at a nursing home, and my dad hauled freight until he slipped a disc and never really walked right afterward. But I always liked working. I got my first real job at 15, dishwashing at this small diner called Ruby's Junction, and by 19, I was delivering pizzas for Smoky Hill Pizza, this little independent joint tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. It wasn't glamorous, but the pay was decent. The tips were unpredictable enough to be exciting, and honestly, the job saved me from getting stuck in the mines like half the guys I grew up with. By the time I turned 24, I'd become the senior delivery guy. I knew every back road, every holler, every busted-up gravel path the GPS refused to acknowledge. I delivered to old log cabins, barns somebody had turned into houses, RVS balanced on cinder blocks, you name it. And I loved it. Still do. People ask me why, and I always say the same thing. A hot pizza and a warm car will take you farther than folks think. My boss, Rick Hawthorne, had bought 2 used delivery cars the year before. Nothing fancy, but they had heated seats and insulated back seats that kept the pizzas hot for like 40 minutes longer. We became the only place in Warrenton willing to deliver way out into the sticks. Not everyone liked that. Other pizza places said it was too far or too risky. But Rick didn't give a damn. If somebody's hungry for a pizza and they got money in their hand, he'd say, "You deliver the damn pizza." So that's what I did. One place we delivered to pretty often was Ridgeway Recovery Home, a halfway house for guys getting out of jail or rehab. Most people avoided it, but honestly, some of the best damn customers I ever met lived there. Hard lives, hard lessons, big hearts. They tipped better than rich folks half the time, and they treated me like a friend. But the night I'm about to tell you about, well, that night changed everything. It was early October, chilly enough that my breath fogged up the air when I stepped outside. My shift started at 5. Fridays were always hell at Smoky Hill Pizza, because Rick had this buy one get one deal that brought in half the county. Around 8:45 p.m., right when the rush started dying down, I got an order ding on the screen. 1 large meat lovers, extra cheese. Delivery. Ridgeway Recovery Home. I remember looking at the order slip and thinking, only one? Weird. Those guys usually ordered 3 or 4 pizzas minimum. But whatever, everybody's got off days. I slid the pizza into the heated carrier, tossed it into the back seat, and headed out. The whole drive takes about 25 minutes, winding through the kind of forest roads where the trees blot out the moon. I didn't mind it, though. I liked the quiet. But the closer I got to Ridgeway, the more something felt off. The place was usually pretty lively, even late at night. Guys smoking on the porch, talking trash, hollering about football. But tonight when I pulled up, it was dead quiet. Only one exterior light was on. No chatter. No movement. Just one guy standing near the porch, shifting from foot to foot like he was freezing. He wasn't one of the familiar faces either. He looked younger. Early 20s, tops, thin, twitchy. His hands were shaking. At the time, I figured maybe he was just coming off something. I climbed out of the car, holding the pizza carrier. "Evening, man," I said. "Got a meat lovers for..." I checked the receipt. "For Brendan." The guy looked up quick. Too quick. Yeah, that's me," he muttered. His voice cracked like a kid trying to sound confident. I walked closer and got my first good look at him. His eyes were huge. Not wide. Huge. Like the pupils swallowed up everything. His skin was pale, like he hadn't slept in days. Sweat on his forehead even though it was cold outside. He kept glancing down at the phone in his hand. And the phone kept lighting up. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I tried to lighten the mood. "You're popular tonight," I joked. He didn't laugh. He didn't even try. He looked at me and whispered, "I'm real sorry, man." And before my brain could even process those words, it happened. He lunged, not like a drunk guy stumbling, not like a junkie grabbing at something, like a full-on, desperate, adrenaline-fueled tackle. I didn't even have time to react. The pizza box slammed into my chest as he ripped it from my hands. I stumbled backward, shocked. "The hell?" I started, but he cut me off by shoving the box into my face and hitting me. Fast, wild fists, no rhythm, just chaos. I put my arms up, trying to protect my head. "What are you doing, man?" I yelled. But he wasn't listening. He was crying, actual tears, and shaking so hard he could barely stand still. I'm sorry, I'm sorry," he kept yelling between punches. Then he shoved me so hard I fell sideways onto the gravel. My elbow scraped, and for a second the wind got knocked clean out of me. By the time I got my breath back, he was running, straight for my delivery car. "Hey!" I shouted, scrambling up, stumbling. "Hey, don't..." But he was already yanking the door open. And like the biggest idiot on earth, I'd left the keys in the ignition. Because we never had problems there. Because it was the halfway house. Because I trusted those guys. Because I was comfortable. He jumped into the front seat, slammed the door, and the engine roared. I sprinted toward the car, waving my arms. "Stop. You don't even know how to..." Too late. He hit the gas. The car jerked violently, swerved, fishtailed like a wild animal on ice. Brendan screamed inside the car, not like a criminal stealing something. More like a scared kid trapped inside something he didn't know how to control. The Prius shot forward, bounced off the curb, skidded into the road, and I heard the crash before I even fully saw it. A metal-on-metal, bone-shaking, sickening crunch. Then another, and another. Tires screeched, glass shattered, car alarms exploded into the night. Then silence. Just the kind that hurts your ears. Within minutes, the porch door behind me burst open. A couple of the halfway house guys ran outside, yelling, "The hell was that?" I tried to explain. "Some guy, Brendan, he jumped me, he stole my car." "Who?" one of them shouted. "Ain't no Brendan here." That made my stomach drop. "What do you mean, no Brendan?" I asked. "There ain't nobody here by that name." "Look, man, you sure you're at the right place?" I pointed toward the crash site in the distance, the faint glow of hazard lights blinking through the trees. "I'm sure," I said. "He was waiting right here." The guys exchanged a look, one of those nervous looks people give when something isn't adding up. While they helped me look for my phone, which I eventually found under a bush, the cops and an ambulance arrived down the road. I sprinted toward the crash scene with them. My delivery car had smashed into two parked trucks and ripped the bumper off somebody's SUV. The hood was crumpled like paper. Steam hissed upward like the engine was bleeding. They had already pulled Brendan out, at least what was left of him. His legs. Man, I still remember seeing the medic kneeling beside him, pressing a towel against one of his thighs and shouting for more help. The lower half of his right leg was twisted in a direction that no part of the human body should ever go. His left leg was just gone. Gone. I turned away and threw up in the weeds. The cops later told me everything. His real name wasn't Brendan. It was Coy Mercer. He wasn't staying at the halfway house. He had walked there from 10 miles out. Coy had gotten out of jail 4 days earlier. Drug possession, petty theft, resisting arrest. He was a long-time meth addict. Not clean, not stable, not okay. Earlier that night, he'd gotten into a screaming match with his ex-girlfriend over the phone. She had moved on, starting a new life, had a new boyfriend. Coy snapped. He wasn't trying to run away. He wasn't trying to steal for money. He wasn't just high and confused. He thought the pizza delivery car was his way to get to her. To fix things, as he put it. He didn't even know how to drive. Just like a kid trying to ride a bike for the first time. Except it wasn't a bike. It was a 3,000-pound metal bullet. And he paid for it. They amputated both his legs. One above the knee. One below. When he woke up in the hospital, he kept saying the same thing over and over. "I didn't mean to hurt the pizza guy. I didn't mean to hurt him." And weirdly, I believe him. My boss showed up at the crash site shaking his head, muttering, "Of all the damn nights, of all the damn cars." But he wasn't mad at me, not even a little. "It ain't your fault, kid," he said. "Nobody expects a guy to try Grand Theft Auto, West Virginia edition." The cops cleared me. The insurance covered most of the car. I missed a week of work, but mostly because of the shakes I kept getting every time headlights flashed at me. But here's the part people never expect when I tell this story. I didn't quit. I didn't run from the job. Didn't swear off delivering to the halfway house. Didn't start carrying a weapon or pepper spray. Because the thing is, that night didn't make me fear people. It made me understand them. Coy wasn't a monster. He was a broken man who made a dangerous, terrible choice in a moment of weakness, stupidity, and heartbreak. And while what he did nearly killed me, I still can't bring myself to hate him. I even visited him once, after he was stable, before they transferred him back to prison for violating parole and vehicle theft. He wouldn't look at me, just stared at his bedsheets. "Why'd you come?" he whispered. I shrugged. "I guess. I needed to see you were still you." He cried. I didn't know what to do. So I just sat there. People think the world is full of evil. But most of the time it's just full of hurting people making dumb choices that get way out of hand. I eventually became manager of a new Smoky Hill pizza branch on the other side of the county. I still take deliveries sometimes, especially the late night ones. Never lost the habit of checking behind me, though. And I sure as hell never leave keys in the ignition anymore. And every once in a while, when the new drivers ask me why I still deliver to Ridgeway Recovery Home, I tell them the truth. One bad night doesn't make every night bad. One broken soul doesn't mean everyone's broken. And one desperate man doesn't mean you stop showing up for the folks who count on you. They usually nod. Some don't get it. But the guys at Ridgeway do. Sometimes when I deliver there now, the older residents sit me down on the porch, hand me a plate and ask, "Tell us again, the night a pizza damn near took your life." And I tell them, because it's part of who I am now, part of why I keep going, and part of why I'll never forget the night a delivery turned into a disaster, and somehow still taught me to see people more clearly. I never planned on staying in Raven Hollow past high school. If you'd asked the 17-year-old version of me, I would have told you the same thing every kid from a dying Pennsylvania town says. One day I'm getting out of here and never looking back. But life doesn't really care much for your plans. By 25, I was still there, still broke, still living in a sagging duplex on Ashbury Road with a shitty electric heater and a landlord who only answered texts if you added urgent in all caps. I worked nights at Firebrick Pizza, the only joint open past 10 p.m. for 20 miles. And honestly, I didn't even mind the job. Driving through the back roads with a hot pizza in the passenger seat felt like the only peaceful part of my day. Folks tipped decent, too. More out of guilt than generosity. I think like they knew they'd never want to be the one delivering food at midnight through the woods where even cell service didn't bother to go. My name's Jalen Reeve, by the way. And this story? It's about the night I realized Raven Hollow had always kept something buried. Something alive. Something that made the woods breathe. And I should have listened to every warning sign. I was halfway through wiping down the prep table when the shop phone started buzzing on the wall. Our manager, Laura, didn't even look up from her laptop behind the counter. "Jalen, grab that, would ya?" she said, chewing gum loud enough to drown out the radio. I hit the speaker button. "Firebrick Pizza. This is Jalen. What can I get started for you?" What came through sounded wrong. Like someone was speaking next to the phone, but not into it. Like their mouth was turned the wrong way. A man's voice, shaky, breathy. "Large pepperoni, extra sauce. Please hurry." The "please hurry" bothered me. It didn't sound urgent like he needed food. It sounded urgent like he was scared. I forced a laugh. "Sure thing, man. What's the address?" Silence. Then, Hollow Creek Station, the old one. Back entrance. My stomach dropped. "No, come on, man. That place is condemned. We don't deliver out there." Laura overheard and called out. "If it's inside the radius, we deliver." That's corporate talking, not me. I muted the call. "Laura, Hollow Creek Station is boarded shut. Cops taped it off last year. Some vagrants started a fire." She typed something on her screen. "It's still inside our delivery zone. You want the hours or not?" I bit the inside of my cheek. "Fine." Unmuted. "Sir, do you have a name?" The voice whispered, almost a whine. "Cole. Please. I don't have much time." The call hung up before I could ask anything else. "I'll be real for you." I almost said fuck it and refused the run. But rent was late. My car insurance was past due. And I'd already maxed a credit card buying groceries. Missing a delivery meant losing the tip, but worse, it meant Laura would write me up, and I couldn't risk losing hours. So I bagged the pizza, grabbed 2 garlic dips, triple-checked my jacket pocket for pepper spray. Yeah, laugh if you want, but I've had drunk rednecks chase me before and headed out into the frostbitten night. Before I left, Laura called out, "Hey, don't go wandering inside that building. You know how these rural nut jobs can get. Drop it at the door and dip." "Trust me," I said. "I'm not trying to make the news." But deep down, something already felt wrong. The name Cole stuck in my mind like gum in hair, and the way he whispered hurry. It felt like he wasn't ordering food. He was warning somebody. If you've never driven western Pennsylvania roads after midnight, especially in winter, imagine this. Your headlights barely touch the trees. Your tires hum on asphalt like they're whispering secrets. and the woods feel like they're listening. I flipped off the radio halfway there because every song somehow made it worse. The forest swallowed sound in a way I'd never noticed before. Like I was driving into a mouth that never spit anything back out. After 15 minutes, I passed the "Welcome to Raven Hollow" sign the one kids graffitied with "Turn back every Halloween" and took the turn toward Hollow Creek. And that's when I heard it. A deep, vibrating boom. Not thunder. Not a gunshot. Not a car backfiring. It was too low. Too stretched. Too wrong. Then again, louder. Boom. My steering wheel rattled under my palms. "Jesus," I whispered. "What the hell is that?" My first thought, some idiot firing off basement-made explosives in the woods. But the farther I drove, the more I realized the sound wasn't coming from anywhere. It was coming from everywhere. A deep, animalistic bellow smeared into something metallic, like a dying generator trying to mimic a roar. I slowed the car, rolled down the window. The cold bit my cheeks. Then, boom, ruh, something between a roar and a siren and metal dragging across asphalt. I flinched so hard I elbowed the steering wheel. Hell no. Nuh-uh. This ain't right. I almost turned back. But then I saw the cardboard sign, taped to a tree, soaked from old rain, scrawled in black marker, "Delivery this way." My throat tightened. This wasn't a prank. Pranks don't feel like watching eyes hidden in the trees. I drove on. Hollow Creek Station wasn't really a station anymore. It used to be a World War II munitions storage facility, built into the hillside. Big concrete doors, rusted metal vents. My grandfather said soldiers trained there, ran drills, kept watch. Then it shut down. Then kids discovered it. Then addicts. Then cops shut it again. The place changed hands, changed owners, changed warnings. But one thing never changed. Nobody lived there. So why the hell did someone order pizza? As I pulled up, the woods went dead silent. Even the insects shut up. I stepped out of the car, gripping the pizza bag tight, scanning the area. My breath fogged in a thin line, drifting toward the bunker like it was being pulled. The front door was chained shut. Had been for years. The back entrance, however, yeah. That one, a thick iron door hanging open an inch. Lamplight flickering inside like someone was trying to coax it back to life. "All right," I whispered. "In and out, Jalen. Don't be dumb." I knocked. "Cole, I've got your food." Something shuffled inside. Not footsteps. Not movement of someone standing up. More like something brushing the wall, dragging. Like fabric. Or nails. Then a man's voice, weak and trembling. "Door's not locked. Please come in." My heart hammered. But the voice wasn't scary. It was terrified. Something in me stupid, bleeding heart idiot me said, "Someone needs help." So I pushed the door open. The air hit me first. Cold, damp, metallic. Like walking into a basement filled with old pennies. My flashlight beam cut through the dimness. The bunker had been half cleaned up, graffiti painted over, trash cleared, a mattress in the corner. Someone was actually living here. And on the floor, a laptop hooked to an old PA speaker through messy wires. Its screen flickered with a sound file paused at the start. Monster, roar, test, final, wavy. I swallowed. So the roar was coming from here. Then, crunch, a footstep behind me. I turned fast. My flashlight landed on a man, mid-30s, shivering, eyes bloodshot, cheeks hollow like he hadn't eaten in days. He leaned on the wall like he could hardly stand. "You're the pizza guy?" he whispered. "Yeah," I said, lifting the bag cautiously. "Large pepperoni?" He laughed. Short, broken, a sound of someone who'd forgotten how. "You shouldn't have come here. Man, you called me," I said. "Are you hurt? Do you need?" He held up a shaking hand. "Shh." Something rustled deeper inside the bunker. A low scrape, like claws on concrete. I took a step back. "Dude," I whispered. "What the hell is that?" Cole looked at me with a terror I don't ever want to see again in any human face. "It followed me," he whispered, "and now it knows you're here." "Nope," I muttered. "Nope, nope, nope. I'm not playing this." Then the roar came. Not from the laptop. Not from a speaker. From the tunnel. Louder than before. So loud my knees nearly buckled. Boom, ruh. My flashlight flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. The metal door behind me slammed shut from the vibration. Cole dropped to the ground, covering his ears. "Don't look at it," he begged. "Whatever you do, don't." Too late. Something moved in the tunnel. And I'm telling you this, real, straight, no exaggeration. It was big, bigger than a person. Crawling. Long limbs scraping the floor. Fingers or something like fingers curling around the edge of the doorway. A shadow stretched across the concrete floor like ink spilling. I stumbled back. What the fuck is that?" Cole whispered. "It thinks we're trespassing." Before I could respond, it lunged. Not fully. Not toward us. Just far enough for me to see its face. And I wish I hadn't. Its eyes weren't glowing, they were reflecting. Like an animal. But the shape? The depth? Human enough to understand what it meant to stare. Its mouth opened. Rows of teeth like broken glass. A tongue that moved like it wasn't made of flesh. And a sound came out that wasn't meant for ears. Not a roar. A warning. "Don't come back." That's what it felt like, it said. Not in English. In instinct. Cole grabbed my arm. "Run." We didn't argue. We didn't breathe. We ran. We slammed shoulder first into the metal door. It burst open with a scream of rusty hinges. Cold air hit my face like a slap. The forest wasn't silent anymore. It was alive with motion, birds scattering, branches snapping, the wind sucking backwards like something enormous was inhaling. We sprinted toward my car. Halfway there, the roar tore through the night again. Boom. Ruh. My ears rang. My vision blurred. "Go," Cole screamed. We jumped in. I fumbled the keys. The engine wouldn't start. Come on, don't do this to me." Cole looked behind us. His voice broke. "It's coming." The engine finally roared to life. I slammed the gas. The car fishtailed in the frost, tires screaming, forest blurring into streaks of black and silver. In the rearview mirror, something moved out of the bunker. Tall, lurching, too thin, too long, a silhouette that didn't belong in this world. The roar followed us for half a mile, but it didn't chase. It didn't have to. We got the message. I dropped him at a gas station in town. He refused to go to a hospital, refused to call police. He just said quietly, "I thought the sound would scare it away. That's why I made the file. Something big to bluff it, but it only made it angry." "What even is it?" I whispered. He shook his head. "People vanish in Raven Hollow every year. Hunters, campers, runaways. They always blame weather, or drugs, or animals. And you think it's that thing?" He looked at me like I already knew the answer. "I think it's been here longer than the town, longer than any of us." Then he stepped out of my car and walked into the dark. I never saw him again. Next morning, Laura asked why I looked like hell. "You wouldn't believe me," I muttered. I quit Firebrick Pizza a week later, moved to Pittsburgh the month after that. But sometimes, late at night, when a truck brake shrieks or a far-off train horn stretches over the wind, I hear it again, that impossible sound. Boom. Ruh. And every part of me knows. It never stayed behind. It just let me go. I remember the exact night my life almost got carved open like a cheap roadside pumpkin. People think pizza delivery is a joke, something high schoolers do for gas money. But I'd been grinding at it since I was 19, through long nights, snowstorms, and shitty tips from drunk college kids who couldn't tell a 20 from a 1. By the time all this happened, I was 27, and still hustling. My name's Jarek Nolan, weird name, I know. Mom picked it from some Polish side of the family I never met. Folks usually called me Jer. I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona, a place that looked cozy on postcards but felt like a desert trying to swallow a town some days. Rent was brutal, bills piled up, and delivering pizza wasn't the dream, but it kept me alive. My dad bailed when I was 8. and Mom worked back-to-back shifts at a retirement home. I learned quick that if you want something, you grind for it, even if it breaks your bones and your sleep schedule in the process. That night, the one that tore open everything I thought I knew about danger, it started stupidly normal. It was around 9:15 p.m., skies pitch dark already. I was working at a small family-owned joint called Red Cinder Pizza, not chain level. Just a gritty little shop squeezed between a laundromat and a vape store. The smell of garlic and burnt crust had seeped into my clothes so deep it was basically my cologne at that point. "Jer, order up," my boss yelled Aldo, a cranky 40-something dude who talked like life personally offended him. I tied my apron tighter. "Where's it going?" I asked. "South Rim Road," he muttered, punching the ticket into the register. Guy ordered 4 meat lovers. Cash. And he tipped 10 online, so don't bitch. I frowned. "South Rim? Past the 89? Yeah. Bro, that's where that weird compound is. You sure this ain't some setup?" Aldo rolled his eyes hard enough to see his brain. "People live everywhere, dude. Just deliver the damn pies. Stop being dramatic." I sighed. I'd delivered almost everywhere, trailers, campsites, shady motels. But South Rim Road always gave me a bad vibe. It stretched into dark, empty pine forest. At the end of it, rumor said some ex-bikers bought land out there and built something like a halfway-run gang clubhouse. Nobody knew exactly what they did, but everyone in town avoided them. I grabbed the pizza bags and headed toward the back door where my shitty car waited, a rust-eaten 09 Honda that shook whenever I went over 45. I was halfway to the car when my coworker Lenny stuck his head out the back door. "Yo, Jer." I turned. "What?" He made a face. "South Rim Road? Dude, you crazy? Wasn't my idea." He walked up, lowering his voice. "You good on gas?" Last guy who took an order out that way stalled in the woods for like an hour. Said he heard some freaky shit. "Great pep talk, man," I said. "Really boosting morale." Lenny snorted. "Hey, I'm just saying if you see someone waving you down, don't stop. Folks out there ain't the friendly type." I shrugged. "As long as they give me cash, I don't care." I wish I had taken him way more seriously. I dropped into my driver's seat and started the engine. It coughed twice like an old man choking on pretzels, but eventually growled alive. Playlist on. Seatbelt on. Heat blasting. Pizzas stacked behind me. The usual. I merged onto the road, night swallowing everything outside the range of my headlights. Arizona nights hit different. Quiet, dry, unsettling. Even the wind sounded like it was sneaking around. A few miles in, my phone buzzed with the address. 2310 South Rim Road. The number felt fake. Too neat. Too symmetrical. Nobody out there bought numbered properties. They just built shit wherever they wanted. But customers lie on orders all the time. Drunks type the wrong zip. High teenagers drop pins in the wrong forest. It happens. I kept driving. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Not a single car around me. The pines closed in tight, shadows moving like someone walking beside the road. My gut started tightening, but I kept going. This job had taught me one thing. Your gut is usually right, but you're too broke to listen. After another few minutes, I slowed down. Something looked wrong. Up ahead, something shiny glinted across the pavement. I squinted. Yo, what the hell is that? Metal? Wire? A chain? Then it clicked. Spike strips, just lying across the entire dirt road. No headlights, no car, no police. Nothing. Just a trap. Fuck this, I whispered, slamming the brakes. But it was too late. My tires rolled right over it. Pop. 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 My Honda jerked sideways, steering wheel shaking like crazy. Shit, shit, shit. The car swirled, jumped, then died completely. Silence. Only my breathing filled the air. I stepped out slowly, my boots crunching on gravel. The spike strip wasn't police grade. It was homemade, rusty, sharp enough to rip clean through rubber. Okay, calm down, I muttered. Call Aldo. Call anyone. I reached for my phone. And that's when I heard it. A voice from the trees. Low. Male. Whispering in Spanish. Ahí está. There he is. Another voice. Closer. Harsher. Agárrenlo. No lo dejen escapar. Get him. Don't let him get away. My stomach dropped. Fuck, nope. I turned. 4 silhouettes burst out of the tree line. Masks. Dark clothes. Weapons glinting. One held a machete. Another, a pipe. One had a bat wrapped in duct tape. And the last guy, biggest of them, carried what looked like a sharpened shovel. The big one pointed at me. Core. He screamed. Run. That was all I needed to hear. I ran. Branches slapped my face as I sprinted blindly into the forest. My lungs burned instantly, cold air cutting down my throat. Behind me, bootsteps thundered, getting closer. Detente. Lo quiero vivo. Metanle el machete. Stop. I want him alive. Cut him. I stumbled over a root, caught myself, kept running. My heart was beating so loud it drowned out everything else. I don't know how long I ran, maybe minutes, maybe hours. Fear stretches time like taffy. All I knew was that those men were relentless. Every time I slowed, their voices got louder, closer. You picked the wrong damn night, Jer, I gasped to myself. The wrong night. Suddenly the ground dipped and I slid down a muddy slope, tumbling hard, crashing through dead brush until I hit flat dirt. I groaned. Ow. Fuck my ribs. I struggled to stand. A light flickered through the trees, white, flickering, hanging. A lantern? No. A farmhouse yard light. I staggered toward it. I broke through the tree line into an open clearing. Old fence. Rusty tractor. A small barn with a metal roof reflecting the pale moonlight. Animals grunted inside. I had 2 choices. Keep running into the dark woods. Hide here and pray the owner wasn't a psychopath. Compared to the guys chasing me, a farmer sounded like Jesus Christ himself. I ran to the barn, shoved the door open, slipped inside, and froze. Pigs. Huge pigs. 12 or more, all shifting, snorting, stomping around. Some stared at me like I'd just insulted their mom. Hey, buddies. I whispered. I'm not here to fight. I'm just fuck. Please don't bite me. Behind me, shouting echoed in the distance. I needed to hide now. I jumped into an empty pen, crouched behind a pile of hay, and tried to steady my breath. Everything smelled like mud, piss, and hay. My eyes watered. A massive sow lumbered over easily 500 pounds. She sniffed me, snorted loud, then plopped down in front of me like a living boulder. Good pig. Good girl. Please don't crush me, I whispered. Suddenly, the barn door slammed open. I flinched. Footsteps. Voices. Entro aquí. Did he come in here? No lo veo. I don't see him. A pig squealed angrily. Then another. The men cursed. Pinches. Animals muevans. Fucking animals move. But the pigs didn't move. They got louder. Aggressive. Biting. Lunging. Grunting like warriors protecting turf. The men backed away. Vámonos. Regresamos con luz. No vale la pena. Let's go. We'll come back with light. Not worth it. Their footsteps retreated. The door creaked. Silence. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I stayed behind that massive pig shield, shaking, barely breathing, praying they wouldn't return. Hours passed. I shivered all night. At dawn, sunlight leaked through the wood slats. The pigs shifted, snuffling as they woke. My muscles were frozen in place. The barn door opened slowly. A silhouette stepped inside. A man, mid-60 seconds maybe. Flannel shirt, gray beard, wrinkled face. He stared right at me. Son, he said slowly, you look like you've been dragged through hell twice. I swallowed hard. Sir, something happened. Someone guys, masks, machetes, chasing spike strip my car. He lifted a hand. Let's get you inside first. I climbed out of the pen, legs trembling. My shirt was ripped. My arms were scratched to hell. I probably looked like I'd rolled down a fucking mountain. Inside his house, he poured me coffee and listened while I told everything, every detail, every panic-soaked moment. He nodded slowly. "You're damn lucky," he said finally. "Why?" I whispered. He sighed. "People out there ain't just thieves, ain't just gangs. They run something bigger, something ugly." My chest tightened. What do you mean?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "Boy, you didn't stumble into a robbery. You stumbled into a hunt." I blinked. "A hunt?" He nodded. "Some folks round here think killing outsiders keeps their land clean. Their word, not mine. They lure vehicles out, strip 'em, hunt whoever survives. They've been doing it for years." I went cold. "Did they think I was someone else?" "Doesn't matter," he said. "They saw you. That's all it takes." My throat tightened. "And they'll come back?" He didn't answer right away. "Yes," he said quietly. "But not for you." I swallowed. "Then for who?" He stared at the window. "For anyone unlucky enough to drive that road." The farmer drove me back to town in his old truck. I didn't step foot back into Red Cinder Pizza, didn't pack my things, didn't explain. I just grabbed my wallet, my backpack, and went straight to the bus station. I bought the first ticket heading anywhere else. My phone buzzed with messages from Aldo. "Bro, where you at?" "Hello? Dude, WTF happened to the car?" "Jarek, answer me." I blocked him. I left Arizona that same day and never went back, not for friends, not for closure, not even for my things. But one thing stayed with me. One thought I can't drop. Those guys didn't yell, "Get the delivery driver." They yelled, "Get him." Like they knew who they wanted. Like my being there wasn't an accident at all. And somewhere deep inside my gut, I think the order wasn't for pizza. I think the order was for me. I never thought a pizza delivery shift would change the way I see people forever. But that night on Redbud Lane, hell, it ripped something out of me. Something I don't think I'll ever get back. I guess I should start from before all that. So you understand how I ended up there, why I ignored every warning sign like an idiot, and why I kept telling myself, "Dude, chill, you're overthinking." Even when everything inside me screamed that I wasn't. I've been delivering pizzas in Cedar Ridge, Missouri for a little over 3 years. A quiet town, friendly folks. The usual Midwest vibe. People leave their Christmas lights up too long. Everyone waves when you drive by. And there's always some old guy at the diner complaining that teenagers don't work as hard as back in '85. My name's Rowan. And I'd been struggling to stitch my life back together after 2 rough years. First, my mom passed unexpectedly. Then my uncle kicked me out of the house because he needed the basement back, even though he never used it. I ended up sleeping in my car for months before scraping enough money together to rent a tiny 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. The kind of place where the walls shake every time someone runs the dryer. Delivering pizzas wasn't the dream, but it kept the lights on. Barely. Our shop, Rusty's Pizza, didn't look like much from the outside. The sign flickered, the parking lot was cracked, and every time it rained, water pooled next to the front door like a tiny lake. But our food? People loved it. Especially our double cheese meltdown pie. And our delivery zone stretched farther than any other shop around, which meant bigger orders, bigger tips, and late-night weirdos, lots of them. My manager, Hollis, always joked, "Night shift is where the real money is, Rowan. And sometimes where the real psychos are. But hey, money's money." I used to laugh it off, but not anymore. The night it all happened, June 14th, 2023, was thick with humidity. The kind where your shirt sticks to your back even when you're just standing still. I'd been running orders all evening and was on my last one for the night. I was exhausted. My feet were killing me, and the delivery bag straps felt like they were digging into my shoulder blades. I clocked the order on the screen. 6 large pizzas, 3 sides of BBQ wings, 2 garlic bread loaves, 4 sodas. Total, $142.67. The address? 3289 Redbud Lane. I stared at it and mumbled, "Oh, hell no." Redbud Lane was one of those back roads outside of town where the streetlights stopped and people kept dogs that barked at the wind. Delivery drivers hated going there. It wasn't unsafe necessarily, just isolated and creepy as hell after dark. Last time one of our guys delivered out there, a raccoon crawled into his car and wouldn't leave. But big orders meant big tips, and I needed every cent. "Rowan," Hollis yelled from the kitchen. "That Redbud order's yours. Then you're done for the night." Yeah, I muttered. "Throw me to the wolves, why don't you?" He laughed. "Relax, kid. You'll be fine. Folks out that way are just eccentric." I didn't argue. I grabbed the bags, shoved them into my trunk, and started the drive out of town. The sky was pitch black by the time I reached the quiet outskirts. Houses grew farther apart. Trees swallowed the road. My GPS kept glitching, saying things like "turn left," when the only thing to the left was a patch of forest thick enough to hide a goddamn bear. Finally, the voice said, "Arrived at destination." I looked out the windshield. No house, just a long gravel driveway disappearing between 2 rows of towering pine trees. "Great," I muttered. "Horror movie starter pack." I started driving down the gravel path. My headlights caught glimpses of rusted farm equipment, a mailbox bent sideways, and what looked like an old truck covered with a tarp. The house finally appeared, set far back from the road, 2 stories tall, its siding faded from years of neglect. Not a single light was on. Every house around had porch lamps glowing warmly. But not this one. It crouched in darkness. My heartbeat thumped a little harder. Then my phone buzzed. New delivery instructions. Use the back door. Knock 3 times. I froze. "Okay, that's weird as hell," I whispered. "Back door? Knock 3 times? Who the hell writes stuff like that?" I sighed. This better be a generous tip. I parked near the side of the house where a narrow stone path led toward the backyard. The path was barely visible. Overgrown weeds reached up to my knees, brushing against my jeans as I walked. The pizza bags felt heavier with every step. I rounded the corner and found the back door. It looked ancient wood, swollen with moisture, peeling paint, and a rusted handle. I cleared my throat and knocked 3 times like the instructions said. The door flew open instantly. Like the guy had been waiting, ear pressed against the door. He stood there staring at me with this strange intensity. He was mid-50 seconds, dressed in an oversized plaid shirt, beard unkempt, hair greasy like it hadn't seen shampoo in a week. His voice was low and scratchy. "You're late." I blinked. "It's 11:52. Google said 26 minutes. That's pretty damn good for us." He didn't smile. "Bring it inside." I swallowed. Company policy. I can't go inside the home. I can hand everything to you at the door." He stepped back, exposing a dark hallway behind him. "I need help carrying it. My back's bad. You see?" He slapped his lower spine dramatically. "You come in, set it on the kitchen counter. That's all." I glanced behind him. No lights, no sounds. Just darkness and an odd chemical smell drifting out of the house, sharp, stinging my nose. "Sir," I tried again. "I really can't. If you leave it," he interrupted, voice rising, "I will report you for incomplete service. Do you want that? Do you want to pay for all this food out of your paycheck?" My stomach twisted. Rusty's policy was strict. If a customer claimed the order wasn't delivered properly, the company docked our pay. He knew exactly what he was doing. "Fine," I murmured. "But just to the kitchen." He stepped aside. I stepped in. I should have run. The hallway smelled wrong. Not rotten, not moldy, just chemical. Like bleach mixed with something sharp and metallic. My eyes watered. The walls were lined with old picture frames, but every photo had been removed, leaving empty, dusty rectangles. The guy walked ahead of me. "Kitchen's this way." But he wasn't heading toward the left, where kitchens usually were. He walked straight down the hall toward a closed door. At the very end, "Sir?" I hesitated. "Isn't the kitchen?" "It's downstairs," he said, voice flat. "My family's down there waiting." My feet stopped moving. "Downstairs?" "Yes." I tried to laugh it off. Didn't know people kept kitchens in basements around here. He didn't laugh back. We like privacy. Something in the way he said "we" made goosebumps explode across my arms. Look, I said slowly. How about I just set the bags here? Your family can come grab them. He turned around. Hard. No. The word cracked like a whip. I forced myself to breathe normally. Why not? They can't come up, he snapped. Okay, easy, I said, lifting my hands. Not trying to start anything, man. He took a step toward me. Not fast, but intentional. Calculated. Blocking the only exit. My guests don't like waiting, he whispered. Especially not for new people. I blinked. New people? His lips stretched into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. You'll see. My throat went dry. Nope, nope, nope. I pulled my phone out casually, pretending to check for payment confirmation, then hit the call button for the first contact. My cousin Lacey. It rang. Voicemail. Whatever. I just needed him to hear it. Hey, Lace, I said loudly. Yeah, I'm at that Redbud Lane drop-off. Back door. Super dark back here, right? Anyway, can you swing by? Customer needs help carrying stuff downstairs. The man froze like a deer in headlights. I kept talking. Yeah, just park by the shed. I can see it from the door. Should only take you a minute to get here. The man licked his lips nervously. Hang up, he said. What? Hang up. Okay, yeah, Lace, hurry. I want to close out fast. I finished, ending the call. His face changed. Panic? Anger? I couldn't tell, but he stepped back. Small advantage. I took it. I slid sideways, still clutching the pizza bags, moving toward the exit without looking like I was fleeing. Then, heavy footsteps echoed behind us. A voice boomed from deeper in the house. Where's the girl? You said she was coming down. Girl? I'm a guy. Someone else emerged, tall, broad, bald, wearing filthy coveralls. His eyes scanned me like he was picking out cuts of meat. She had company, the first man spat. She called somebody, had to let her go. We can handle company. The bald man growled. No one comes out here this late. My chest turned to ice. Yeah, well, she's leaving. The first man snapped. This was my chance. I lunged for the door, yanked it open, stumbled into the night, and sprinted toward my car. Hey! Someone shouted behind me. I didn't look back. I dove into my Honda, slammed the door, locked it, and reversed so fast I nearly hit a tree. Gravel sprayed behind me as I tore out of that driveway. When I reached the main road, I finally let myself breathe shaky, uneven gulps of air. Then I saw it. In my rearview mirror, the garage door of the house was partially open. Inside hung clear plastic sheets. Zip ties scattered on the floor, and something metallic glinted under a workbench. My hands shook as I dialed 911. What came next still haunts me. Police swarmed the property within 20 minutes. They told me to stay nearby for my statement. I parked at the bottom of the road, hands still trembling, when the first officers entered the basement. One of them ran outside and puked. I saw it. There was screaming, radios crackling, more units pulling in, blue and red lights bouncing off the trees. Hours later, a detective approached me. Detective Harris. Silver mustache, tired eyes. Son, he said, you saved yourself tonight, and probably stopped something real bad from happening to someone else. What was down there? I whispered. He hesitated. Then he spoke quietly. A soundproof room. Metal rings bolted to concrete. Chains, a drained bathtub, coils of rope, jars of chloroform, and 3 IDs belonging to missing women from the last year and a half. All of them were last seen. You guessed it, delivering food. My stomach twisted. The detective continued. You walked in at the wrong time, or maybe the right time, depending on how you see it. I stared at the ground. What about the men? They ran, he said. But we'll find them. They know we're onto them now. I rubbed my arms, suddenly cold. They knew it was my last delivery, I whispered. How? Detective Harris looked at me, expression grim. That's what chills me, he said. They've been watching the apps, tracking drivers, learning routines. They planned things down to the minute. You weren't chosen at random. A gust of wind rustled the trees. Everything felt wrong. Everything felt tainted. I thought about the basement, the chemical smell, the darkness behind that door, the way he'd smiled when he said, "New people." And I realized something terrifying. They weren't preparing a meal for guests. I was supposed to be the guests. Food for them, entertainment, a new victim, a new ID card for the drawer. And if I hadn't made that call, if I hadn't pretended someone was coming, I'd have been trapped in that basement, in a room designed so no one could hear me scream. Sometimes I still hear their voices in my dreams. My guests don't like waiting. Where's the girl? We can handle company. But what haunts me the most isn't what they said. It's what they didn't say. It's the fact that they got away into the darkness. And they know my face now. They know my name. They know where I work. And every night I leave the shop after midnight, I check every car around me, every shadow, every parked truck. Because those men, they aren't done. People like that never stop. Not because they're hungry, but because they like feeding on fear. And I was almost their next meal. I never thought loneliness could echo louder than the ocean. But that's exactly what Florida taught me my first semester after transferring. I'd moved down from Ohio, chasing a fresh start. But the Sunshine State wasn't all sunshine. Not for me. I was 19, broke, working nights delivering pizzas for Harbor Slice, a family-run joint 2 blocks from Bayview Road in Clearwater. Back home, things had fallen apart too fast, my mom's second marriage collapsing, my stepbrother's overdose, the house going into foreclosure. All of it stacked in my mind like wet boxes ready to collapse. Florida became my escape. Or at least that's what I told myself. When I first got to Clearwater, the humidity slapped me every morning, like it had beef with me personally. And the locals spoke with that laid-back, half-joking, half-I-will-fight-you tone Floridians somehow mastered. But Harbor Slice? That place felt like the only thing grounding me. My boss, Leroy, was a short, thick-bearded guy with a gruff voice and a heart big enough to feed half the city for free. My coworker, Tessa, ran the counter, sarcastic, fast-talking, dyed blue hair, always chewing gum like it owed her money. Then there was Ridge, another delivery guy, mid-20 seconds, tattoos everywhere. Talked like life was one long joke. We weren't a family, but hell, they were the closest thing I had. That night, the night everything went sideways, started like any other Florida evening. Thick air, distant thunder, tourists yelling down by the pier, and a nervous pit in my stomach I couldn't explain. I'd been feeling watched the past few days, but I chalked it up to paranoia. Clearwater gets weirdos. Everyone knows that. "Yo, Sully," Tessa said, slapping 2 boxes on the counter. "Bayview Road. Apartment 203. Customer name, R. Baines. Paid online. Tip included. Should be quick." "Bayview again." I groaned. "That place smells like someone microwaved a corpse." Ridge snorted. "Bro, it's Florida. Everything smells like that." Even Leroy cracked a grin. "Stop whining, kid. Deliver the damn pies before the cheese solidifies into concrete." I grabbed the thermal bag, keys, and receipt. Florida nights felt beautiful for exactly 8 minutes before the heat wrapped around you like a wet blanket. I didn't know it yet, but this would be the last normal conversation I'd ever have in that shop. I pulled into Bayview Apartments and instantly regretted being alive. Dim lights, broken elevator, angry mosquitoes the size of helicopters. I hauled the pizzas up the staircase, sweat dripping down my spine. When I reached apartment 203, the hallway was strangely quiet. No TV noise, no talking, no footsteps, just the low hum of a busted AC unit. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Harbor Slice Pizza. Silence. I pulled out my phone to call the number on file. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Click. A voice answered, not greeting me, not asking where I was, just breathing, slow, heavy, close to the receiver. This is Sullivan from Harbor Slice. I'm outside your..." The breathing stopped. Then the man said, in a voice so calm it froze every muscle in my back. "You're not supposed to be there yet." My chest tightened. "What? You delivered too fast," he whispered, like he was stating a fact. "I'm not ready for you." Something about the way he said "you" made bile rise in my throat. "I'm leaving the pizzas at the door," I muttered, stepping back. "No," he murmured. "Stay." I hung up immediately and knocked again, panic squeezing my lungs. This wasn't normal. Not Florida weirdo normal. Something else. Just as I turned to leave, the door clicked. My blood iced. Slowly, the door creaked open 2 inches. Pitch dark inside. A single eye peered through the gap, pale blue, unblinking. "Hey there, Sullivan," the voice said, softer this time. "How do you know my—" He pushed the door open wider. In the dark, I could barely make out his face, but I saw pale skin, shaved head, and a smile stretched too wide, like he learned it by watching humans instead of being one. "I've been waiting to meet you," he whispered. Every fiber of my being screamed run, but my legs felt anchored to the floor. "What the hell is this?" I snapped, trying to sound tougher than I felt. "That bag," he said, pointing at my thermal carrier with trembling fingers. "Bring it. Inside." "No chance." He tilted his head. "Don't be rude. You don't want to upset me, do you?" I stepped back. He stepped forward. That's when I saw it. No shoes. No socks. His feet were covered in dirt. Not Florida sand. Dark soil. Wet. Fresh. And his nails. Long. Broken. Packed with mud. I bolted down the hall so fast I nearly tripped over myself. He didn't chase me. Not yet. But I heard him laugh, a soft, delighted giggle drifting out of the apartment as I sprinted down the stairs. I locked the doors, started the engine, and sped out of the lot. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone calling Harbor Slice. Tessa picked up. "Yo, Sully, you good?" No, Tess, something's wrong." This guy, he knew my name. He knew I'd arrive early. "Slow down," she said. "You sound like you're about to puke." I told her everything. All of it. She went quiet. Then, "Dude, we didn't get any online order under that name." "What?" "There's no R. Bane's in the system tonight." "Check again." "I just did, Sully. That order isn't from us." My throat dried up. "So who the hell sent me there?" "So someone spoofed an order?" I whispered. Ridge's voice came into the background. "What's going on?" Tessa answered, shaky. "Sully just walked into some messed up shit." Ridge took the phone. "Sully, you listen to me, go home. Now. Don't take any more orders tonight. I still have 2 deliveries. Screw the deliveries. For real. But something in my gut told me going home wouldn't help. Because that man, he wasn't confused. He wasn't crazy. He was waiting. For me. Leroy forced me to take one last drop. Said he'd close early after that. Make sure nobody drove alone. Address: 1148 Morrow Drive. Customer: unknown. Paid: cash. I should have refused. But when you're 19, broke, desperate to pay off your student fees, you do stupid shit. Florida roads after midnight are their own kind of horror, empty, humid, with the distant buzz of insects echoing through the darkness. When I reached the address, I instantly felt wrong. It wasn't a house. It was a construction site. No lights. No equipment. Just a half-built skeleton of a home surrounded by overgrown brush. "Hell no," I muttered. I parked, grabbed the pizza bag, and approached the front. The wooden frame creaked in the wind. "Hello," I called out, voice cracking. Something moved inside. A slow shuffling. I took one step backward, then another. A voice drifted from the dark interior. "You're early again, Sullivan." My stomach dropped so fast I almost fainted. Same voice. Same tone. Same man. I choked. "How did you?" His silhouette emerged inside the unfinished house, tall, thin, slightly hunched. "You should have stayed on Bayview," he said. "But that's okay. We can still do this." I stumbled back toward my car. He stepped out onto the porch. No shoes. Feet covered in fresh soil again. like he'd dug himself out of something. "Sully," he whispered, "don't make me chase you." I ran like hell, jumped into my car, slammed the door, and he was suddenly right there, palm flat on my window, smiling. I peeled out so fast I left skid marks. In the rearview mirror, he just stood there, watching, breathing, smiling, like he knew something I didn't. I didn't go home. I didn't go back to Harbor Slice. I parked behind a Walgreens and slept in the car, adrenaline keeping me half awake. Every sound made me jump, but eventually, exhaustion won. I must have drifted off because the next thing I heard was tap, tap, tap on my car window. I shot up. A man stood outside, hoodie, hands in pockets. Not the same clothes, but the posture, the smile. Same fucking man. He waved like we were old friends. "Found you," he said through the glass. I slammed the car in reverse, heart exploding in my chest. He didn't chase me. He didn't need to, because he'd already proven something. He could find me anywhere, anytime, any place in Florida. Officers didn't believe half my story until I showed them the call log and the fake order receipt. But the craziest part? When they checked Bayview apartment 203, it had been empty for 9 months. No tenant, no utilities, door locked from the inside. Then they checked the unfinished house at Morrow Drive. Police tape covered the area. They found footprints, bare footprints, leading from the woods to the house and back into the woods. When they ran prints from my car window, no match in any database. "Could be a drifter," one officer said. "Or someone who likes playing games," another muttered. But the third officer, he stared at me and said, "You're lucky to be alive. He isn't done. People like that don't stop because you ran. They stop when they get what they want." I swallowed hard. "What does he want?" The officer didn't answer. He didn't need to. I already knew. Me. I transferred jobs, changed apartments, changed schedule, stopped delivering pizzas, stopped going out at night, stopped sleeping much. But last night, as I walked to the trash bins behind my new building, I heard it, that same voice, soft, delighted, from behind the dumpster. "You're late this time, Sullivan." My blood ran cold. He stepped out with that same wide smile, same pale blue eyes, same bare, dirt-caked feet. He cocked his head, like studying me. "This is better," he whispered. "Now we can finish what we started." I froze. He took one step forward, then another. I backed against the wall, unable to breathe. He leaned in close enough that I felt his breath on my neck. "Sullivan," he whispered, "we're not done." Then he just walked away, calmly, casually, as if he knew I wouldn't dare follow. And he was right, because I knew something now. He isn't following me. He's hunting me, and he won't stop. Not until I open the door. Not until I let him in. Not until he finally gets what he came for. Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I never planned to end up desperate. That's the part people don't get. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides, yeah, today I'll sell my comfort, my body, my pride, whatever it takes. It happens slowly, quietly, bills stacking up, nights getting shorter, your reflection looking more tired every time you pass a mirror. I was 19 when my family cracked in half. My dad didn't leave in a dramatic way. No screaming, no slammed doors. He packed a suitcase one Sunday morning like he was going on a business trip, kissed my mom on the forehead, told me he'd call. He never did. 2 weeks later, we found out he'd moved to southern Arizona with a woman who couldn't have been older than 23. Someone he met through work, according to the one message he finally sent. That message was the last thing resembling responsibility he ever showed. My mom stopped eating after that. She already had diabetes, but Heartbreak does something cruel to the body. Her blood sugar went wild. Hospital visits became routine. I learned words no 18-year-old should know. Co-pays, deductibles, insulin brands, payment plans. We were lower middle class before, comfortable enough. After my dad left, we were drowning. I tried community college, tried pretending I was normal. But every time my phone buzzed, it was another reminder. Pharmacy declined, insurance delay, doctor's office calling, so I dropped out. I worked construction for a while, then delivery, then whatever paid cash fast. By 26, I was bartending nights at a place called the Rusty Finch right off Harbor Avenue. Not classy, not dangerous either. Just tired. Sticky floors, neon signs buzzing like insects, a jukebox that only played old country and classic rock, locals who drank like it was their second job. I worked doubles, slept 4 hours a night, ate whatever was free or forgotten. That's when she walked in. It was a Tuesday. Slow night. Rain tapping against the windows, making the whole street smell like wet asphalt and cheap cigarettes. I was wiping down the counter when the door opened, and the room changed. Not loudly, just shifted. She didn't rush inside to escape the rain. She didn't shake water from her coat. She walked in like the weather didn't apply to her. Mid-50s, maybe. Hard to tell. Smooth skin, but not young. Maintained. Like someone who paid professionals to slow time down. Her coat was long, dark, probably worth more than my car. Hair pinned neatly, silver streaks intentional, not accidental. She scanned the room once, uninterested, then took a seat directly in front of me. "Vodka soda," she said. Calm voice, no accent I could place. "Lime." I poured it. She didn't even look at the glass. She looked at me, not like drunk women did, not flirty, not hungry, evaluating. "You work too hard," she said. I laughed because people say dumb stuff to bartenders all the time. Story of my life. She finally picked up the drink, took a small sip and nodded. "Good pour. Thanks." She watched me for a second longer. Then, "What's your name?" "Evan." "Evan," she repeated, tasting it. "I'm Maribel." We shook hands. Her grip was firm, warm, confident. She stayed for an hour, barely drank. Asked casual questions, where I grew up, if I lived nearby, whether I liked the job. I gave her half-truths. Everyone does. Before she left, she slid a folded bill across the counter. Way more than the drink cost. "Eat something tonight," she said softly. I watched her leave, the bell over the door chiming like nothing important had just happened. I didn't think about her again. Until she came back. Maribel started showing up twice a week, always alone, always dressed like she was on her way somewhere better. Sometimes she talked. Sometimes she just watched me work. One night she asked, "You ever feel like you're running in place?" I shrugged. "Feels more like running downhill most days." She smiled at that, not amused. Understanding. Another night after closing, she waited while I counted the register. "You look exhausted," she said. "When was the last time someone took care of you?" I didn't answer, because the truth would have sounded pathetic. She leaned closer. I caught her perfume. Clean, expensive, faintly floral. "I could make your life easier," she said, "if you let me." I laughed again, nervous this time. "And here comes the catch." She didn't deny it. "I enjoy company," she said, "and I'm generous with people who are good to me." Silence sat between us. She slid a card across the counter. Thick, heavy. No last name, just a number and an address. "Dinner, tomorrow, 7. I stared at the card, then at her. "You don't have to decide now," she said, already standing. "But you should." She left. That night my mom called from the hospital. Her insulin dosage had changed. Insurance wouldn't cover the new one fully. I stared at my empty fridge afterward, and the next evening I drove to the address on the card. The address led me out past the city, past strip malls and pawn shops, into a quiet stretch of road lined with tall trees and gated properties. The kind of place where streetlights were unnecessary because everyone could afford their own security. The gate opened automatically when I pulled up. I remember thinking how stupidly calm everything felt. No barking dogs, no traffic noise, just tires rolling over stone. The house wasn't a mansion in the flashy sense. No gold statues or fountains. It was worse than that. Subtle wealth, clean lines, dark glass, a long driveway disappearing into shadow. Maribel was waiting at the door. "You came," she said, like she already knew I would. Dinner was unreal. Not fancy restaurant food, home food, warm, real. Someone had cooked, not catered. She poured wine, asked me about my mom again, listened, actually listened. "You don't owe me anything tonight," she said when she caught me stiffening. "Just relax." And I did. That was the dangerous part. Over the next few weeks, things escalated gently. No pressure, no rules spoken out loud. She offered help with my mom's bills, paid them directly, didn't ask questions. "You don't need to bartend anymore," she said one morning, tracing circles on my chest. "You look better rested." I moved in. At first, it felt like winning the lottery without buying a ticket. Big bedroom, clean clothes, food always ready. A housekeeper named Rosa who barely spoke but watched me like I was inventory. Maribel insisted I sleep late, eat more. "You're too thin," she'd say, touching my ribs. She liked control, but softly, deciding what I wore, what I ate, where I went. "You don't need the world," she told me once. "You have everything here." That's when things started to feel off. It began with the fatigue. I'd sleep 10 hours and still wake up exhausted. My muscles felt heavy, like I'd run miles in my dreams. Sometimes I'd find bruises on my arms, finger-shaped, faint yellow and purple. "Do you sleepwalk?" I asked her once. She smiled, brushing my hair back. "You're adjusting." Then the meals changed. Still delicious, still filling. But afterward, I'd feel weak, dizzy, like my blood pressure dropped straight through the floor. One night I woke up to a sound, a low hum, mechanical, rhythmic. I followed it down the hall, barefoot on cold stone, until I reached a locked door I'd never noticed before. The hum stopped, the door stayed closed. The next morning my arm hurt, small puncture marks, like needles. "Maribel," I said, holding my arm up. She kissed it gently. "You're safe." That wasn't an answer. I started snooping. Her study was always locked. One afternoon while she was out, I forced it. Shelves of books, medical journals, old photographs, men, young men, different faces, same progression, healthy, thinner, hollow, gone. And then I found mine. Evan Cross. Blood type O negative. Excellent compatibility. I barely had time to breathe before footsteps echoed behind me. "You weren't supposed to see that yet," Maribel said calmly. Before I could move, something slammed into my skull. I woke up dressed in black, weak, barely conscious. Music echoed through a massive room lit with candles. People in masks, blindfolds, laughing. Maribel stood beside me, radiant. "You fed me well," she whispered. "Now you feed us." Something bitter burned down my throat. Hands grabbed me, nails, teeth. Pain exploded everywhere. I screamed until my voice gave out. Then, sirens, chaos, people ran, hands let go. I collapsed, bleeding, alone. I woke up in a hospital bed. My mom was there, alive, crying. Police caught a few people. Not Maribel. They called it a cult. Blood rituals. Longevity obsession. They said I was lucky. But sometimes late at night I still smell her perfume and I know somewhere she's still hungry. I never planned to become the kind of person who measured his worth in overdue notices and unread emails from loan companies. But life has a way of quietly cornering you until you start making choices you once judged other people for. I was 27 when I moved to Ashford Hollow, a tired Midwestern city that smelled like wet concrete and old river water. People didn't move there to start over. They moved there because they'd run out of places to go. I told myself it was temporary. 6 months, maybe a year. Just long enough to get my head above water. That was a lie I repeated every morning while brushing my teeth in a bathroom with flickering lights. I grew up in Toledo. Just me and my mom. No dad, no siblings, no safety net. She worked cleaning offices after hours and sewing alterations during the day. Her hands were always raw, her back always aching, but she never complained. When she died, heart failure at 51, the world didn't pause. Bills didn't care. Debt didn't grieve. By the time I landed in Ashford Hollow, I was buried under student loans and credit card interest. I rented a one-bedroom apartment below street level. The walls sweated in the summer. No matter how much bleach I poured into the corners, the place smelled like mold and pennies. I worked at a bookstore cafe called Paper Crane, heating milk, stacking dog-eared paperbacks, pretending I wasn't constantly doing math in my head. Rent, electric, minimum payments, food. Food was optional some days. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake listening to the pipes knock, heart racing, convinced the walls were closing in. That's when the app found me, or maybe I found it. It wasn't advertised anywhere obvious. No flashy ads. Just a discreet recommendation buried in a forum thread about alternative income streams. The app didn't call itself dating. It used words like arrangement and companionship. Everything looked sanitized, professional, almost corporate. I stared at the download screen for a long time before tapping install. I'm not doing anything wrong, I muttered to myself alone in my apartment. I'm just talking. I made a profile. No shirtless photos, no desperate bio. Just a picture where I looked clean, tired, harmless. I wrote that I liked books, late walks, and quiet conversation. I didn't mention the debt. I didn't mention the fear. Her message came less than an hour later. You look like someone who hasn't slept properly in a long time. Let me take you to dinner. I'll send a car. Her name was Lysandra Wolfe. I almost laughed. It sounded fake, too elegant, too deliberate. But curiosity mixed with hunger is a dangerous thing. I replied with a polite thank you and expected nothing. 5 minutes later, a confirmation popped up. Restaurant. Time. A black car. The restaurant was expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. Soft lighting. Heavy silverware. Waiters who moved like ghosts. I felt like a fraud in my thrift store jacket, tugging at the sleeves, wishing I hadn't come. Then I saw her. Lysandra wasn't young and she didn't pretend to be. Her hair was silver white, pulled back cleanly. Her dress was dark blue, tailored, timeless. She wore confidence the way some people wear perfume, quiet but unmistakable. She smiled when she saw me. "Caleb," she said, like my name belonged to her already. "You're thinner than your photos." I didn't know whether to apologize or thank her. "Sit," she added gently. "You look hungry." That word again, hungry. Dinner felt unreal. Oysters, steak, wine that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. She didn't flirt. She didn't touch me. She asked questions, real ones, about my childhood, about my mom, about what I'd wanted to be before survival took over. When the check arrived, she didn't even look at it. She slid an envelope across the table. "For your time," she said softly. Inside was cash, enough to cover my rent with room to breathe. My stomach dropped. I didn't think... She leaned forward just enough that I smelled her perfume. Something floral, sharp, expensive. "Relax. You haven't agreed to anything. I enjoy conversation. That's all I'm paying for tonight." I told myself I could walk away. I didn't. That was the beginning. Weekly dinners, long drives, concerts. She paid easily, casually, like money was an abstract concept. Sometimes she listened to me talk for hours without interrupting. Sometimes she stared at me like she was memorizing my face. "You remind me of someone," she said once, swirling her wine. "Who?" I asked. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. "Someone who promised they'd never leave." I laughed it off. I didn't understand then that some people don't joke about abandonment. The first time she invited me to her house, I hesitated. "Just dinner," she said calmly. "You can leave whenever you want." Her estate sat beyond the city limits, iron gates sliding open without a sound. Inside, everything smelled faintly of flowers and disinfectant, the kind of clean that felt intentional. Halfway through dinner, she asked, "Do you trust me, Caleb?" I shrugged. "I think so." She set her glass down. "Don't think. Say it." I met her eyes. Something cold moved behind them. "I trust you," I said. Her smile returned, slow and satisfied. "Good," she whispered. "That matters more than you realize." Later that night, I got lost in her hallway and opened the wrong door. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment everything stopped being an arrangement and started becoming a trap. I closed the door so slowly my fingers cramped. Every muscle in my body locked tight like I'd stepped onto thin ice. The hallway felt different on the way back. Narrower. Quieter. My own footsteps sounded too loud, like they didn't belong in that house. When I turned the corner, Lysandra was standing there, hands folded neatly in front of her, as if she'd been waiting the whole time. "Bathroom?" she asked, head tilted. "Yeah," I said too fast. "Your place is big." A pause, just a fraction of a second. "Big houses have rules," she said calmly. "Some doors are private." I didn't mean to. "I know." She smiled, stepped closer, and fixed an imaginary wrinkle in my sleeve. Curiosity is natural, but it's also how people get hurt. The way she said hurt made my stomach tighten. That night I left earlier than usual. She didn't protest, didn't text me afterward either. The silence bothered me more than if she had. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. She started asking where I was when I wasn't with her, who I talked to, why I took so long to reply. Her tone stayed soft, almost affectionate, but the questions stacked up like bricks. One night, over dinner, she reached across the table and brushed my cheek with her thumb. "You're sleeping poorly," she said. "I'm fine." "No," she corrected gently. "You're not." She paid my rent that month without asking, then my utilities, then sent me a screenshot of a student loan payment, paid in full like it was a cute surprise I should have run right then. Instead, I said, "Thank you." She watched me closely. People say that when they feel owned. I laughed nervously. "I don't." "Good," she replied, "because ownership is earned." The next time I stayed over, I woke up on her velvet sofa well past midnight. The house was silent, too silent. No hum of electricity, no distant traffic. I checked my phone, no signal. Then I heard it, a soft metallic scrape. Outside. I crept toward the window, heart banging so hard I was sure she'd hear it from wherever she was. Across the lawn, a light burned inside the old tool shed near the tree line. The door was cracked. I don't know why I went closer. Maybe part of me still needed proof that I was imagining things. That exhaustion had finally cracked something in my brain. Through the gap, I saw her. Lysandra stood under the harsh bulb wearing a clear plastic raincoat, hair pulled back tight. In her hand was a knife so clean it reflected the light. On the floor sat a large wooden trunk, old and scarred, shaking violently. Something inside it made a wet, muffled sound. My vision tunneled. My hands flew to my mouth to stop myself from making noise. She raised the knife without hesitation. I stumbled back, barely remembering how I got inside, barely remembering lying down on the sofa and pulling the blanket over myself like a child pretending to sleep through a nightmare. Minutes later, or hours, she sat beside me. Her hand brushed my hair. "You're safe?" she whispered. I didn't move. "You won't ever leave me," she said softly, like a promise she was making to herself. I forced a laugh that scraped my throat raw. Why would I? Her fingers stopped. Slowly, she leaned close enough that I could feel her breath on my ear. Because everyone else did. The next morning I lied. "My sister's sick," I said, already backing toward the door. "I should go check on her." Lysandra smiled, picked up her phone. "Let's call her." Before I could stop her, she hit play. My sister's voice came through the speaker, panicked, shaky. Except it wasn't real. It was Lysandra's voice, perfectly copied. My knees nearly buckled. She watched my face like she was reading subtitles only she could see. "I like honesty," she said calmly. "Lies complicate things." That was the day I disappeared. I quit my job, packed what I could fit into a backpack, told my landlord I was leaving town. I took a bus to Chicago, crashing on a friend's couch, telling him I needed a reset. For a while it worked. Then the flowers arrived, white lilies, no card. Then I started noticing reflections that moved a half-second too late. Silver hair in passing windows. Footsteps outside my door that stopped when I listened. The letter came last. Cream-colored envelope. Wax seal. Inside, a photo of me asleep in my friend's apartment, taken from inside the room. On the back, in her elegant handwriting, "You said you trusted me. I don't use apps anymore. I don't accept gifts. I don't let anyone get close enough to learn my routines." Because desperation didn't just lead me to her. It taught her exactly how to own me. And I know, deep in my bones, that one day she'll come to collect what she believes is hers. I should have never downloaded that app. I didn't grow up poor. But I grew up counting. Counting dollars. Counting groceries. Counting how many days until payday. I grew up in a town called Ridgeway Falls, the kind of place people only know if they missed an exit on the highway. 2 hours outside of Ashford City, all rusted signs, gas stations with flickering lights, and diners where everyone knows your name whether you want them to or not. My dad worked HVAC, summers baking on rooftops, winters crawling through frozen crawl spaces. My mom cleaned offices at night. She smelled like lemon disinfectant when she came home, no matter how many showers she took. They weren't dramatic people. They didn't talk about dreams much, they talked about survival. So when I got into Hawthorne State University, they acted like I'd won the lottery. "You're gonna make it out," my dad said, gripping my shoulder too tight. "Just don't screw it up." I didn't plan on screwing anything up. But life doesn't wait for plans. By October of my freshman year, the numbers didn't add up anymore. My apartment was a converted attic above a closed nail salon. One window, slanted ceiling, radiator that clanked like it was coughing up a lung. Rent, $740. Utilities, variable, which meant always bad news. Books, robbery, legal robbery, food. Whatever was cheapest, I worked nights unloading trucks at a distribution warehouse near the river. Midnight to 6 a.m., the kind of job where no one asked questions and no one learned your name. By the time I walked home, my hands shook from exhaustion and caffeine. My body smelled like cardboard and diesel. I slept through lectures. I stopped answering texts. I lived on ramen, peanut butter, and cheap black coffee that tasted like burnt regret. Other students wore Patagonia jackets and talked about weekend trips like they were grocery runs. I didn't hate them, but I felt invisible next to them, like I didn't belong in the same world. The night everything changed, it was raining sideways. Cold rain. Loud rain. The kind that makes the city feel smaller and meaner. I was sitting on my mattress, laptop balanced on my knees, staring at my bank app. $46.19 rent was due in 4 days. I laughed. Just once. Short and ugly. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from a private campus group chat. One I barely remembered joining. Not proud of it, but it helped. If you're desperate, You're desperate. Under it was a link. No explanation. Just a name. Valora, not on the App Store, not on Google Play. The download page looked expensive, minimal, clean. Almost too clean. Black background. Gold emblem. No reviews. I hesitated. Then I thought about boiling pasta with ketchup again. I installed it. Valora didn't look like a dating app. No swiping, no bios, no filters. It looked like a menu. Listings scrolled vertically, calm and quiet. Dinner companion, 2 hours, $800 gallery escort. Discreet, $1,200 private conversation. Overnight, inquire. My chest tightened. This wasn't sex. At least, not openly. Then one listing stopped me cold. Lorraine Halcrow profile photo, mid-50s, dark silver hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes that looked like they knew things they didn't say out loud. Elegant, controlled, dangerous in a subtle way. Her description was one sentence. Looking for presence, not performance. Before I could even process it, my phone buzzed. A message. Lorraine, you're online. I swallowed. Me. Yeah, I'm just looking. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then. Lorraine. I don't waste time. 3 hours. Dinner and conversation. $9,500 cash. No physical expectations. I stared at the screen so long my eyes burned. That number didn't feel real. That number felt like freedom. Me. Why that much? A pause. Long enough to make my skin crawl. Lorraine. Because I don't want someone who needs to pretend. My stomach twisted. Me. Why me? Lorraine. Because you're tired. And tired people don't lie well. That should have scared me. It didn't. It felt accurate. Saturday night came fast. Too fast. At 8:15 p.m., a matte black town car idled across the street from my building. No logo. No plates I recognized. I almost didn't go. I stood in the doorway, rain misting my face, heart pounding like I was about to commit a crime. Then my phone buzzed. Lorraine, if you're having doubts, stay home. I won't ask twice. That did it. I got in the car. She was already inside. Lorraine Halcrow didn't smile when she saw me. She assessed. Sit, she said calmly. Her voice was smooth, educated, and completely emotionless. The car smelled like leather and something floral but sharp. You look younger than your profile, she said. I am, I replied. She nodded. Good. That wasn't comforting. The house was in Ravenshade Hills, old money territory, winding roads, iron gates, no sidewalks. Her home wasn't massive, but it felt intentional. Warm lighting, soft music. Everything placed carefully like a museum someone still lived in. Dinner was already prepared. She poured wine. I declined. Smart, she said. Alcohol makes people careless. We ate. She watched me eat, didn't touch her plate. So, she said softly, tell me what you're afraid of. I laughed nervously. That's kind of personal. She tilted her head. You're in my house for money, she said. Don't pretend this is polite company. I exhaled. Being stuck, I said. Being broke forever. Being invisible. Her lips curved slightly. Yes, she whispered. That's it. Something in her tone made my chest tighten. Then I noticed the hallway. One door at the end, slightly open, light flickering inside. I don't know why, but it felt like it was watching me. Bathroom? I asked. She looked at me for a moment too long. Second door on the right, she said. Her voice was different now. Colder. I walked down the hall and stopped, because the door at the end wasn't a bathroom. It was stairs, leading down, and from below. I heard something move. My heart dropped. Behind me, Lorraine's voice echoed softly. That area is private. I turned. She was smiling, but her eyes were empty. And that's when I realized this wasn't companionship. This was selection. She wasn't buying my time, she was studying me. For a second, Neither of us moved. Lorraine stood at the end of the hallway, one hand resting lightly against the wall, like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. The soft lighting behind her carved shadows into her face, making her cheekbones look sharper, her eyes darker. "I got turned around," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. She stepped closer, slow, unhurried. "This house isn't confusing," she replied. "People just walk where they want, instead of where they're told." I swallowed. "Bathroom?" I tried again. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Then she turned and pointed. "Second door. Don't wander." The way she said wander felt like a warning, or a threat. I nodded and moved past her, forcing myself not to run. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned over the sink, gripping the porcelain until my knuckles went white. My reflection looked wrong, paler, eyes too wide. I splashed water on my face and told myself to get through dinner, collect the money, and never think about this night again. But when I unlocked the door and stepped back into the hall, something had changed. The house felt quieter. Too quiet. And the door at the end of the hall was now fully open. I didn't mean to go down there. I want to make that clear. I took one step toward the living room, then another. But my eyes kept drifting to the stairs. The light below flickered faintly, like a dying bulb struggling to stay alive. And beneath that flicker was a smell. Old wood, damp concrete, something metallic. My chest tightened. I told myself Lorraine probably forgot to close it. I told myself rich people have weird basements. I told myself a lot of things. Then I heard it. A soft sound, like someone shifting their weight. Down there. I froze. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer. Just the hum of electricity and that faint, irregular movement. Every instinct screamed at me to go back to the living room. Instead, I stepped onto the first stair. The basement was narrower than I expected. Low ceiling, exposed beams, concrete walls stained with age. A single bulb hung from a wire, swaying slightly. Under it was a table. On the table sat a ledger and an old freestanding mirror with a cracked corner. The air felt heavier down there, like it pressed against my chest. I picked up the ledger. It wasn't a diary, it was a record. Names, dates, amounts, all written in neat red ink, page after page, different handwriting styles, same format. Some entries were crossed out, others were circled. Next to several names was a word written smaller, almost like a note to herself. Suitable, unstable, attached, resistant. My stomach dropped. These weren't clients. These were evaluations. I flipped another page, and then I saw a date from 3 weeks ago, and next to it, a name I recognized. A guy from my economics lecture. I hadn't seen him in class lately. My ears started ringing. That's when the mirror caught my eye. My reflection didn't move when I did. It lagged. Just a fraction of a second. Then something else appeared behind me. Not a person, a shape. Tall, still, watching. I spun around. Nothing. But the bulb flickered violently now, casting shadows that stretched too long, bent the wrong way. A whisper brushed past my ear. "Samuel." I dropped the ledger. That was enough. I took the stairs 2 at a time, burst into the hallway. Lorraine was waiting. Of course she was. "You went somewhere you weren't invited," she said calmly. I pushed past her. She grabbed my wrist. Her grip was ice cold. "You don't understand what you walked away from," she said. I yanked free and ran. The house felt bigger now, corridors stretching, corners where there hadn't been corners before. I slammed into the front door and tore it open. Rain hit my face like needles. I didn't stop running until my lungs burned. I don't remember flagging down the cab. I remember the driver asking, "Jesus, kid, what happened to you?" I remember not answering. Back in my apartment, I locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle, and collapsed onto the floor. My phone buzzed. A notification. Valora. One final message. Lorraine, curiosity is expensive. Be grateful you couldn't afford it. Then the app vanished. Not crashed. Gone. No icon. No record. Nothing. I skipped work for 3 days. Skipped classes for a week. When I finally checked campus rumors, I found a post buried deep in a forum. Someone asking if anyone had seen Evan Rook lately. Last seen 3 weeks ago. My hands shook. I deleted the App Store history. I blocked unknown numbers. I stopped opening links I didn't recognize. I never went back to Ravenshade Hills, but sometimes late at night when I'm half asleep, I swear I hear a notification buzz, and for a split second, I smell flowers. Heavy, sharp. And I remember the way Lorraine looked at me. Not like someone who wanted me, but like someone who had almost claimed me. Some doors close, others wait. I tried to move on. That's the lie people like to tell. That time fixes things. It doesn't. Time just teaches you how to live around the damage. By December, the semester was almost over. I picked up extra shifts at the warehouse, took cash under the table work helping a guy move furniture, ate better, slept worse. I never talked about Lorraine. Not really. Whenever her face surfaced in my mind, I pushed it down like a bad memory you don't want to give shape to. Because once you give it shape, it starts to feel real again. But reality doesn't care what you want. It was finals week when I saw him. I was in the student union waiting in line for burnt coffee, half dead from studying. The place was packed, stressed faces, tapping feet, phones buzzing nonstop. And then someone laughed behind me. Low, controlled, my spine locked. I turned slowly. The man standing 2 spots back was mid-40s, maybe older, expensive coat, calm eyes, the kind of face you forget the moment you look away. But I didn't forget his watch. Gold. Minimal, same one Lorraine wore. He met my eyes, smiled, just slightly. My heart started hammering. Long week? He asked casually. Yeah, I muttered. He nodded like we were old friends. They always are when you're being evaluated. I stiffened. What? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You did well, he said. Most don't. My mouth went dry. Who are you? I asked. He chuckled softly. Someone who cleans up when curiosity gets messy. I left my coffee on the counter and walked straight out. Didn't look back. Didn't run. Running shows fear. That night, I finally did what I should have done weeks ago. I searched. Not for Laura, not Lorraine. I searched patterns, missing students, quiet dropouts, people who vanished without police reports or obituaries, the kind who fall through cracks because no one's looking hard enough. I noticed something unsettling. A lot of them had financial problems. A lot of them had no close family nearby. A lot of them had been seen entering nice cars late at night. Then I found an old article, 10 years back. Different city, same type of house, same phrasing. Private companionship network exposed. No charges filed due to lack of evidence. The names were redacted, but one line stuck with me. Participants were selected not for services rendered, but for psychological compatibility. I closed my laptop. I didn't need to know more. 2 nights later, I got an envelope under my door. No knock, no sound. Just there. Inside was cash, neatly stacked, exactly $9,500, and a note. 1 sentence. Consider this payment for your silence. My hands trembled. They hadn't chased me. They hadn't threatened me. They had closed the file. And that terrified me more than anything else, because it meant I was never the goal. I was a test. I finished the semester, moved apartments, changed my number, stopped picking up late-night work. I never told my parents the truth. I just said college was harder than I expected. Which was true, just not in the way they imagined. Sometimes I still think about Lorraine, not with desire, with understanding. She wasn't lonely, she wasn't broken, she was curating. People like her don't want bodies, they want minds that bend quietly. And when they don't bend, they disappear. If you're listening to this story and thinking, I'd never fall for that, good, that means you're not desperate yet. But remember this, the most dangerous offers don't look like traps, they look like relief. And somewhere out there, there's always someone watching, waiting for the moment you need help badly enough to stop asking questions. I never planned on working nights. Night shifts are something people fall into, not something they choose. They're for folks running from something, or towards something they don't want anyone else to see. For me, it was debt. By the time I took the graveyard shift at the Red Pine fuel stop off Route 61, I was already drowning. Student loans, credit cards, a past due notice taped crooked to my apartment door like a quiet threat. The kind of problems that don't explode all at once but tighten slowly around your chest until breathing feels optional. Red Pine sat just outside a dying town called Millbrook, Pennsylvania. One diner, one bar, a Dollar General that never quite looked open even when it was. Route 61 cut through it like a scar, carrying truckers, insomniacs, and people who didn't want to be seen in daylight. The station glowed all night, fluorescent and lonely, surrounded by pine trees that whispered when the wind cut through them. After midnight, it felt like the whole world narrowed down to 4 gas pumps, a flickering coffee machine, and me. My name's Cal Henson. I was 28 then, looked older, felt worse. Most nights were quiet. That was the appeal. No boss breathing down my neck. No customers asking about rewards cards or lottery numbers. Just me, the hum of the coolers, and the occasional 18-wheeler rumbling past like distant thunder. I liked the silence. Silence doesn't judge you. On my 3rd week, the phone rang. It was 1:47 a.m. I remember because I checked the clock twice, annoyed. That phone never rang at night, ever. If someone wanted something, they walked in. I picked it up with one hand, pen still between my fingers. Red Pine fuel. For a second, there was nothing, just breathing, slow, heavy, like the person on the other end was deciding something. Then a voice scraped through the line. "Is Rowan there?" Something about the way he said it made my neck tighten. "No," I said, "just me tonight." Another pause. Then, click. I stared at the receiver longer than I needed to, then hung it back up. Wrong number, I told myself. Next night, same time, ring. I hesitated this time before answering. Red Pine fuel. "Is Rowan there?" Same voice, same gravel drag to it, no introduction, no politeness. "No," I said, sharper now. "There's no Rowan working here." Click. I stood there, listening to the dial tone buzz before slamming the phone down. By the 3rd night, my nerves were already shot. When you work alone long enough, your brain fills in gaps it shouldn't. Every shadow feels heavier. Every sound lingers a beat too long. I brought it up to my manager, Walt Brenner, when he came in around sunset to swap registers. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Did someone named Rowan used to work nights here?" Walt froze mid-count. "Why?" "Someone keeps calling for him." He didn't look at me for a few seconds, just stared at the drawer. "Don't answer the phone anymore after midnight," he finally said. "That's it?" He snapped the drawer shut. "That's it." That should have been enough to scare me. It wasn't. I stopped answering the phone, let it ring until it gave up. Sometimes it rang 6, 7 times in a row. The sound echoed through the empty store, digging into my skull. Then one night, just after 2, the door chimed. I looked up, and every instinct I had screamed wrong. He was tall, not bulky, lean, but solid. Work jacket, mud on his boots. His face wasn't scary in the obvious way. That somehow made it worse. Calm eyes, controlled posture, like nothing surprised him anymore. He didn't browse, didn't look around. He walked straight to the counter. "You the night guy?" he asked. "Yeah." "What's your name?" I hesitated. "Cal." He nodded once. "Name's Hale Mercer." I didn't like the way he said it, like it mattered. "I'm looking for Rowan." "He doesn't work here anymore." "I know." That caught me off guard. Hale leaned his elbows on the counter, close enough that I could smell cigarette smoke and cold night air. You talked to him? No? You sure? Pretty sure. His eyes stayed on mine longer than comfortable. People like Rowan, he said quietly, don't just disappear. A chill crawled up my spine. I just work here, man. He smiled, faint and humorless. So did he. He bought nothing, left nothing, just walked out. After that, things escalated. Hale started showing up every few nights. Sometimes he came inside. Sometimes he just stood outside the glass, watching, not hiding, letting me see him. The phone calls started again too. Always the same question. Is Rowan there? I stopped sleeping well. That's when the messages started. The app wasn't Tinder. It was one of those discreet arrangement platforms people pretend not to know about. I downloaded it during a bad night when the numbers on my bank app stopped feeling real. Her username was Ivory Vale. She messaged first. You look tired. I almost laughed. We talked slowly. No flirting, no pictures, just money stress. Night jobs, feeling stuck. Then she said it. I help men who are honest about their situation. We met at a quiet steakhouse an hour away. She was older, early 50s, composed, expensive coat, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her name was Maribel Cross. She slid an envelope across the table without drama. Think of it as breathing room, she said. I took it. That was the moment everything locked into place. Because I didn't know then that Rowan had taken money from her too. And people like Hale Mercer didn't collect debts for free. Once you accept money that isn't earned, it changes the way you hear silence. After meeting Maribel Cross, my nights at Red Pine felt heavier. The lights buzzed louder. Every set of headlights made my shoulders tense. Hale Mercer stopped pretending to be casual. He started coming in earlier, staying longer, asking questions that sounded harmless until you replayed them in your head hours later. You live alone, Cal? You still closing by yourself? Ever think about leaving town? I lied. A lot. Rowan stayed off my radar until Hale made it clear he wouldn't. One night, Hale didn't come inside. He waited until my shift ended. I locked up, keys shaking in my hand when I heard boots on asphalt. Walking home? He asked from behind me. I turned slowly. That's not your business. He stepped closer. Everything becomes my business eventually. That was the night I went looking for Rowan. It took 2 days, old coworkers, Facebook comments, a bartender with a memory too good for his own health. I found him holed up in a crumbling duplex near the river. Place smelled like mold and fear. Rowan looked worse than I expected. Gaunt, hands trembling. She's not just a sugar mommy, he said the moment I said Maribel's name. She's an investor, in people. He explained it in pieces, money up front, no paperwork, favors later. Hale was her collector, not muscle, enforcement. She doesn't forgive, Rowan whispered. She replaces. That word stuck with me. Replace. That night, Maribel texted, Hale says you've been curious. Curiosity can be dangerous. I stopped replying. The next evening, Hale showed up angry for the first time. You went looking for him, he said flatly. I didn't. He slammed his hand on the counter hard enough to rattle the cigarette rack. Don't lie to me. The store felt too small, too bright. He's done, I said. You got your money. Let it go. Hale stared at me like I'd said something amusing. No, he said softly. He broke an agreement. You stepped into it. That was when I understood. I wasn't collateral. I was next. The plan came together fast because it had to. Rowan and I met near the old rail yard. He was shaking. She'll kill me, he said. Not if she thinks you're gone, I replied. We set the trap at Red Pine. One last meeting, one last night shift. Hale came just after midnight. You ready? He asked. I nodded and led him outside. Rowan stepped from the shadows, hands raised. "I'll pay," Rowan said. "Everything." Hale didn't slow. I saw it in his eyes. There would be no deal. I swung first. The bat cracked against his shoulder. He stumbled. I hit again. Knee this time. He went down hard, gasping. Rowan froze. "Run!" I screamed. We didn't look back. By morning, I was gone. Apartment empty. Phone smashed. Cash left on the table. I never heard from Maribel again. Sometimes I still work nights. Different town, different name. And sometimes when the phone rings after midnight, I let it ring. Because I know what happens when you answer. I never thought I'd be the kind of person whose life could be summarized by an eviction notice taped crookedly to a door. But there it was. White paper, red ink, final warning. I stood barefoot on the cracked linoleum of my apartment, staring at my own name printed in bold letters like it belonged to someone else. The place smelled like instant noodles and damp concrete. A siren wailed somewhere outside. Distant but familiar background noise for a city that never cared who survived and who didn't. My name is Jonah Reeve, and at 26 years old, I was officially out of chances. People like to imagine California as sunshine and second chances, but nobody talks about the quiet humiliation of failing here. The way the city doesn't yell at you, it just keeps going while you fall behind. I grew up in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, the kind of town where the loudest thing after 9 p.m. was the wind-rattling old store signs. My dad drove delivery trucks. My mom worked the night shift at a nursing home. They weren't unhappy people, just tired ones. I was supposed to be different. College brochures promised escape, opportunity, a future that didn't smell like diesel and disinfectant. I left home at 19 with a duffel bag and borrowed confidence. By 22, I dropped out of film school in Northern California with debt and no degree. By 26, I was living in Hollister Heights, in a studio apartment that used to be a storage unit. I worked nights at a diner called Rusty Mile, right off the highway. Truckers, exhausted nurses, drunks who needed grease to soak up regret. The coffee tasted burnt no matter how fresh it was. My landlord, Eldon Krause, didn't believe in second chances. "You're not a bad kid," he told me once, arms crossed, keys jingling. "But good intentions don't pay mortgages." I nodded like I understood. Truth was, I hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days. That night, the diner was slow. Rain tapped against the windows, steady and patient. Around 10:30 p.m., she walked in. She didn't look lost. She didn't look lonely. She looked like she belonged wherever she stood. Mid-50 seconds, maybe older. Sharp posture. Hair silver but styled deliberately, not trying to hide age, owning it. She wore a dark coat that still smelled faintly of expensive perfume and cold air. She slid into a booth near the back. I brought water. She didn't touch it. "Coffee," she said. "Black, no refills." Her voice was calm, controlled. I poured the coffee, set it down, and started to walk away when she said, "You look like you're running on fumes." I stopped, turned back. "Rough shift," I said automatically. She studied me for a moment, then said, "Rough life." That landed harder than it should have. She introduced herself as Lenora Blythe. No small talk, no flirting, just quiet questions. "How long have you lived here?" "Too long." "Do you like it?" "No." She nodded as if confirming something to herself. When she left, she tipped $100. The next night, she came back. Same booth, same order. This time she asked my name. I told her. She said it softly, like testing how it sounded. "Jonah." She came back again. And again. Never touched me. Never crossed a line. Until one night, after closing, when the diner was empty and the rain had finally stopped. She waited while I wiped down the counter. "You're drowning," she said gently, "and you're pretending you're not." I laughed, a little too sharp. "You don't even know me." She met my eyes. I know desperation when I see it. Silence stretched between us. "There are ways out," she continued. "Not all of them are ugly." I felt my chest tighten. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, Lenora said, reaching into her purse. That sometimes survival requires humility. She placed a small card on the counter. No name, just a phone number. Think about it, she said, standing. I don't rush men who are already broken. She walked out before I could respond. 3 days later, Eldon changed the locks. That's when I made the call. I called the number at 3:17 a.m. I remember the time because my phone screen was cracked, and the numbers blurred together unless I stared hard. I sat on the edge of a borrowed couch in my friend's apartment, someone who'd already made it clear I couldn't stay more than a night or two. The phone rang twice. Then her voice. Jonah, Lenora said calmly, like she'd been expecting it. I was wondering when you'd decide to live. My throat felt tight. You don't waste time, do you? No, she replied. Neither should you. She told me where to meet her the next evening. No explanation, no instructions beyond. Be clean, be on time. The place was Ridgewater, a private dining club tucked into the hills, no sign outside. Just a security gate and a man in a suit who checked names like he was guarding a vault. Lenora was already seated when I arrived. She didn't ask how I was. She asked, "Do you know what you're agreeing to?" "I don't know anything yet," I said carefully. She gestured for me to sit. "I don't buy people," she said. "I invest in stability, mutual benefit." I waited. "You will never worry about rent again," she continued, "or groceries, or medical bills. You will have privacy, comfort, and in return," I asked. "1 evening a week," she said. "My time, your attention." My heart pounded. "Sex?" She didn't flinch. "If I want it." Silence. "And if I say no, then you leave," Lenora said simply. No harm, no threats. I searched her face for deceit. I found none. That should have scared me more. "Why me?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Because you're desperate enough to be honest." I agreed. Not because I trusted her, because I had nowhere else to go. The change was immediate. Within 48 hours, my debts vanished. My belongings, what little I had, were moved into a modern apartment overlooking Silver Point Marina. Floor-to-ceiling windows, stainless steel appliances, a bed that didn't creak when I breathed. I stood in the living room that first night, barefoot on polished wood floors, laughing quietly like a man who expected the illusion to vanish any second. Lenora called. "Get used to it," she said. Shock fades quickly. Our first evening together wasn't sexual. We ate dinner at her home, an expansive house perched above the cliffs, overlooking the ocean. The place was immaculate but not cozy. Art on the walls that felt chosen, not loved. She poured wine herself. "You're nervous," she observed. "Wouldn't you be?" I said. She smiled. "No, I don't place myself in situations I can't control." That sentence stayed with me. Over the next few weeks, the arrangement settled into routine. Every Thursday night, dinner, conversation, sometimes sex, sometimes not. She never raised her voice, never drank too much, never lost control. People stared when we went out. I could feel their judgment crawl across my skin. One night, I asked, "Do you care what people think?" Lenora took a sip of her drink. "People only judge what they can't afford." I told myself it wasn't so bad. She didn't hurt me. She didn't belittle me. She didn't demand love. She offered security. And God, I needed that. But then came the checkups. She framed them as concern. "You're important to me," she said one morning. "I need to know you're healthy." Her doctor, Dr. Callow, worked out of a private clinic that didn't appear on Google Maps. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He asked about my family. Any history of kidney failure, heart disease, autoimmune disorders? He drew blood, a lot of it. I joked, "You planning to clone me or something?" He didn't smile. After the third appointment, I asked Lenora, "Why so many tests?" She brushed imaginary lint from her sleeve. "I don't like surprises." Then she disappeared. No warning, no explanation. 1 week passed, then 2. Her driver stopped coming. My messages went unread. I told myself not to panic, but panic crept in anyway. That apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt borrowed, temporary. On the 15th day, A black SUV pulled up outside. The driver opened the door. "Miss Blythe wants to see you," he said. I should have refused. I didn't. The SUV smelled like leather and something faintly sweet air freshener trying too hard to cover something else. The door shut with a soft, expensive thud behind me. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see my own reflection. The driver didn't look at me. We pulled away from the curb. "Where are we going?" I asked. No response. I told myself not to overreact. Lenora didn't owe me explanations. That was part of the arrangement. Still, my chest felt tight, like I'd missed a step on a staircase and hadn't hit the ground yet. The city thinned out as we drove. Streetlights grew farther apart. Familiar buildings gave way to long stretches of road lined with trees and fencing. "This isn't her house," I said. The driver's jaw tightened slightly. That was the only reaction I got. We turned onto a private road marked by a small sign that read, "No trespassing. Private property." The gate slid open without the car slowing down. That's when my instincts finally started screaming. I reached for the door handle. Locked. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. The driver spoke for the first time, voice low. "Relax, you'll be comfortable soon." That sentence did it. I lunged forward, grabbing the back of his seat. The car swerved slightly. "Stop the car," I shouted. Pain exploded at the base of my skull. Something sharp, fast. My vision fractured into light and static. The last thing I felt was the weight of my own body slumping forward, and the strange thought that I'd made a terrible, irreversible mistake. I woke up breathing shallow, panicked breaths. The air smelled clean, too clean, sterile. There was a dull, spreading ache in my side, deep, internal, wrong. I tried to move my arms and felt resistance. Straps. My heart rate spiked. The sound of a monitor responded immediately, beeping faster, louder, "Easy," a voice said. I turned my head as much as I could. Dr. Callow stood near the foot of the bed, clipboard in hand, expression neutral. He looked exactly the same as he always had. Calm, detached, professional. "What did you do to me?" I croaked. "You came through surgery remarkably well," he said, like we were discussing a routine dental procedure. "Surgery?" My mouth felt dry, thick. "Where's Lenora?" He paused, just long enough to register. "She's resting," he said. "You should do the same." I tried to sit up. Pain tore through my abdomen like fire, ripping a scream out of me before I could stop it. "Don't," he said firmly. "You'll tear sutures." I looked down. There was a thick bandage stretched across my right side, just above my hip. Tubes ran from beneath it into machines I didn't recognize. My hands started shaking. "You took something from me," I said. "Didn't you?" Callow didn't answer immediately. He adjusted something on the IV stand. "You were a rare match," he said finally. "Extremely rare." My breathing became ragged. "A match for what?" "For survival," he replied. He turned and walked out of the room, leaving the door to close softly behind him. I screamed until my throat burned. No one came. Hours passed. Or minutes. Time didn't make sense under medication and fear. Eventually, a nurse entered. She avoided eye contact. "Can you tell me what day it is?" I asked desperately. She hesitated. "Tuesday." "How long have I been here?" "Since Sunday." Panic surged again. "I want to call the police." Her face tightened. "That's not advisable." "Why not?" I demanded. She lowered her voice. "Because you signed documents." "I didn't sign anything." She looked at me, then really looked, and for a brief moment, something like pity crossed her face. "You should rest," she said quietly. "I'm sorry." When she left, I noticed the camera in the corner of the ceiling. Watching. The envelope arrived that evening. Thick, heavy. Inside was cash. More money than I'd ever held in my life. Along with a handwritten note. Lenora's handwriting was elegant, precise. "Jonah, I regret that this had to be handled without your consent. Time was not a luxury I had. You were compatible. Willingly or not, you saved my life. You still have one healthy kidney. People live full lives with less. This money is enough for you to start over somewhere quiet, somewhere safe." Do not contact authorities. This arrangement was protected legally and privately. Any attempt to interfere will result in consequences far worse than what you've already endured. I wish you peace. L. I stared at the note until the words blurred. She never said thank you. Recovery was slow, painful, isolating. No visitors, no calls, no explanations beyond what I already knew. They discharged me after 10 days. A driver took me back to my apartment, the same one overlooking the marina. It felt wrong now, like a crime scene that had been cleaned too thoroughly. I packed what I could carry, sold everything else. 3 weeks later, I left California. I changed my name in Missouri, took a job stocking shelves overnight, avoided doctors unless absolutely necessary. Sometimes, late at night, when the store is quiet and the lights hum overhead, I feel a phantom ache in my side. A reminder, she's out there, alive, because of me, and I finally understand the truth. I wasn't her companion. I was her contingency plan. I learned how quiet the world becomes after something like that happens to you. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The kind where sound still exists, but none of it feels meant for you. I relocated to Hawthorne, Missouri, a town small enough that no one asked questions and big enough that nobody cared who I used to be. I rented a basement room from an older couple who barely acknowledged my existence. Cash rent, no paperwork, just the way I wanted it. I worked overnight shifts at a warehouse off the interstate, stacking boxes under fluorescent lights that hummed like tired insects. No windows, no mirrors. Perfect. The scar healed faster than my head did. Doctors say losing a kidney doesn't change your daily life much. They're right physically. You wake up, you walk, you work. Your body adapts. Your mind doesn't. Every ache feels suspicious. Every dizziness makes your heart jump. I drank less water than I should have, terrified of feeling anything abnormal. I stopped sleeping on my right side because the pressure reminded me too much of the hospital bed. I didn't dream at first. Then the dreams started. Lenora never screamed in them, never chased me. She didn't need to. She just watched. Sometimes she sat across from me at a dinner table I couldn't leave. Other times she stood behind glass, hand resting calmly against it, like she was checking on an investment. I woke up soaked in sweat, hand clutching my side, heart racing like I'd been running. I thought about going to the police more times than I could count, but I never did, because when you replay everything honestly, you realize how clean she was about it, how insulated, how protected. I had signed contracts, vague ones, buried under legal language I hadn't understood at the time. Medical consent forms I barely remembered scribbling my name on during routine visits. Non-disclosure agreements, disguised as privacy protections. And the money, that was the ugliest part, because I used it. Paid rent, bought groceries, built a quiet life on top of something stolen from me. That guilt sat heavier than the pain ever did. 6 months after I left California, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a small envelope and a newspaper clipping folded neatly. The clipping showed a photo of a woman exiting a private medical facility, walking confidently, supported by a cane she didn't seem to need. Lenora, alive, healthy, smiling faintly at the camera. The headline read, "Philanthropist Lenora Blythe funds new medical wing." My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a single card. "Take comfort in knowing you mattered. L." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Not thank you. Not I'm sorry. You mattered. Like a part. Like a resource. Like something consumed. That night, I burned the card. Watched the flame curl the edges inward until nothing recognizable remained. Years passed. I stayed invisible. That became my skill, my survival tactic. I learned that horror doesn't always come with violence, or monsters or screams. Sometimes it comes wrapped in silk, with good posture and impeccable manners. Sometimes it sounds like opportunity. Sometimes it asks politely. I still avoid restaurants with private dining rooms. I don't trust doctors who smile too easily. I flinch when people talk about mutually beneficial arrangements. And every now and then, when I'm alone and the world is quiet, I press my palm against my scar and remind myself, I survived. But survival isn't the same as winning. She took something from me I'll never get back, not just an organ, but the belief that help doesn't always come with a price tag carved into your body. If you're listening to this and you think desperation can't make you blind, you're wrong. It doesn't feel like blindness. It feels like relief. Until you wake up strapped to a bed, realizing you were never the beneficiary. You were the solution. And solutions don't get happy endings. I never thought I'd measure my life in declined transactions. It wasn't dramatic at first. No big explosion, no screaming matches, just small humiliations that stacked up quietly, like overdue envelopes on a kitchen counter. My name is Elliot Ward, and when this story started, I was 34 years old, sitting in my car outside a 24-hour gas station in Millbrook, Indiana, watching frost creep along the edges of my windshield while my phone screen glowed red. Payment declined. Again, I rubbed my face with both hands, palms cold, jaw tight. The dashboard clock read 2:11 a.m. My stomach hurt in that hollow, acidic way it does when you've been surviving on diner coffee and one meal a day. Inside the station, the cashier, a kid maybe 19, pretended not to notice me sitting there. He was scrolling his phone, leaning on the counter like nothing in the world could touch him yet. I envied that. I turned the key, but the engine hesitated before catching. That tiny pause made my heart jump. I whispered, "Come on, come on," like the car could hear desperation in my voice. As I pulled onto the road, a thought kept looping in my head. This wasn't supposed to be my life. 5 years earlier, I had a clean resume, a salaried position at a mid-sized civil design firm, and a one-bedroom apartment with exposed brick and a balcony that overlooked a dry canal. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Back then, my girlfriend Rachel used to joke that I was boring in a safe way. "You're the kind of guy people marry," she'd say, brushing her teeth, voice full of foam. "Not the kind they worry about." She stopped saying that toward the end. The firm folded after a state contract collapsed. Half the staff was gone in a month. The severance barely covered rent. Rachel stayed quiet for weeks, then packed her things one afternoon while I was at a job interview that went nowhere. She didn't yell, didn't cry. She just said, "I can't drown with you, Eli. I need air." I didn't blame her. After that, time stopped feeling linear. Days blurred into shifts, bartending, food delivery, freelance drafting gigs that paid insultingly little. Nights were spent staring at the ceiling, listening to the building creak, calculating numbers that never worked. That's how hunger really starts, not in the stomach, but in the chest. The need to breathe without panic. The forum wasn't something I planned to find. It popped up during one of those sleepless nights when I was scrolling aimlessly, phone inches from my face, trying not to think about the final notice from my landlord sitting unopened on the table. The site looked plain. No ads, no obvious branding, just threads with titles like alternative arrangements, discreet support, mutual needs. At first, I laughed under my breath. "Jesus," I muttered. "This is sad." I didn't post, I just read. Men and women negotiating companionship like contracts. Some were obvious scams. Others, less so. What struck me wasn't the sex. It was the language, stability, consistency, care, words that sounded almost gentle. I closed the app, opened it again. Then, at 1:07 a.m., my inbox chimed. The username was Lace Harbor. The message was short. "You look like someone who's tired of pretending he's fine." I stared at it. My first instinct was anger. My second was embarrassment. I typed back, "You've got the wrong person." The reply came almost instantly. "No, I don't. You haven't slept properly in months. You miss having structure, and you'd rather be useful than desired. Men like you always are." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "This is bullshit," I told myself, but I replied anyway. Her name was Maribel Cross. She suggested we meet in public. No pressure, no expectations. Her words, "We chose a restaurant downtown, one of those places with cloth napkins and a host stand that makes you feel underdressed no matter what you're wearing." I almost turned around when I saw the valet. I stood in the bathroom beforehand, staring at my reflection. The button-down shirt I'd ironed that morning still looked tired. So did I. Just dinner, I whispered to myself. That's it. She stood when she saw me. Mid-50s. Dark auburn hair pulled back neatly, minimal makeup, calm eyes that didn't rush to fill silence. "Elliot," she said, smiling softly, "I'm glad you came." Her voice wasn't flirtatious. It was measured. We talked for 2 hours. She asked about my work, my parents, my routines. She didn't interrupt, didn't rush. When I stumbled over words, she waited. When the bill came, I instinctively reached for my wallet. She gently pushed my hand back. "I invited you," she said. "Please don't insult me." The bill had more digits than my rent. Outside, a black sedan idled at the curb. "I'm not asking you for anything tonight," she said, touching my forearm lightly. "Just think about whether you'd like your life to feel quieter." That word quieter hit me harder than money ever could. 3 days later, my landlord taped the eviction notice to my door. I called her. That was the moment my life tilted. At first, it was almost clinical. Dinner once a week, cash in envelopes, no questions, no intimacy. She called it support. "You don't owe me performance," she said once. "I value presence." I quit bartending at her suggestion. "You're not built for apologizing," she said. "It erodes men like you." Her condo sat on the river's edge, glass walls reflecting city lights. Everything inside was tasteful. Expensive, empty, no photos, no clutter. I asked once if she had family. She smiled thinly. Not the kind that stays. The first time she touched me, it felt less like desire and more like assessment. I told myself it was temporary. That lie kept me warm. By the end of the month, my rent was paid 6 months ahead. The calls stopped. The panic softened. That's when the rules began. "After 10, I expect quiet," she said casually. "I prefer discretion. If you're late, don't rush. I dislike anxiety." They didn't sound like threats. That's what made them dangerous. One night, I was late. Traffic. An accident on Route 9. When I arrived, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't scold me. She simply didn't speak. She watched me eat, sipped her wine, observed. At the end, she slid the envelope across the table. "You don't like disappointing people," she said calmly. "Do you?" I didn't answer. That was the first time I felt the wire tighten. The photo appeared 2 weeks later. On my apartment floor, me, walking out of a hardware store. On the back, in neat handwriting, "Awareness is a form of care." I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront her about the photo right away. That's the part people don't understand when they hear stories like this later. They ask, "Why didn't you leave?" Or "Why didn't you call someone?" Fear doesn't announce itself with alarms. It settles in quietly and starts making decisions for you. I stared at that photograph for a long time that night. Me, frozen mid-step, keys in my hand, unaware. The lighting suggested late afternoon, which meant she or someone she hired had been close. Close enough to smell the sawdust on my jacket. I slipped the photo back into the envelope and shoved it into a drawer like that could erase it. The next evening, I went to her condo as planned. She greeted me with the same calm smile, the same soft voice. "Long day?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah." We sat at the dining table overlooking the river. City lights shimmered on the water like nothing in the world could go wrong. I slid the envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked, though her eyes flicked to it immediately. "You know what it is," I said, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. "That photo. That crossed a line." She didn't look surprised. She leaned back, folded her hands, and studied me the way a therapist might. "I worried," she said finally. "You weren't answering your phone. So you followed me?" She tilted her head slightly. "I made sure you were safe." "That's not safety," I said. "That's surveillance." A pause. "Elliot," she said gently, "you're confusing concern with control." I laughed under my breath. "No, I'm really not." She reached for her wine, unbothered. "Men like you," she said, "have spent your whole lives being overlooked." "I see you." I notice when you're quiet, when you drift. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. This isn't what we agreed to. She looked up at me, eyes steady. No, she said. This is what you accepted. That shut me up. She slid the envelope of cash toward me anyway. Take it, she said. We'll talk when you're less emotional. I hated myself for taking it. After that, things changed, not all at once, but enough that I started adjusting without realizing it. I stopped answering calls after 10, stopped posting online, stopped telling friends where I was going. When my old coworker Derek texted me, "You alive, man?" I stared at the message until the screen dimmed, then didn't reply. Maribel noticed. "You seem lighter," she said one night, touching my arm. Less cluttered. She began buying me things. Clothes that fit too well. A watch that cost more than my car. Shoes I was afraid to scuff. When I hesitated, she frowned. "Don't reject care," she said quietly. "It feels personal." The word reject stuck with me, as if saying no was a betrayal. One evening, rain hammered against the glass walls of her living room. The city beyond looked distorted, unreal. She poured wine, then didn't drink it. "Tell me about your mother," she said. I froze slightly. "What about her?" "You mentioned once that she died young." I swallowed. "Cancer." "I was 17. She nodded slowly. "That's when boys learn not to ask for things." The accuracy made my skin prickle. She moved closer on the couch. "Who took care of you after?" she asked. "No one," I said. "I figured it out." Her hand rested on my knee. "That's a heavy thing," she murmured. "To raise yourself." Her voice softened in a way that felt dangerous. "You don't have to do that with me." That night, when we slept together, something felt wrong in a way I couldn't name yet. Not violent, not forced, just misaligned. Like I was being placed into a role I hadn't auditioned for. The rules became expectations. The expectations became consequences. If I missed a dinner, the envelope was thinner. If I questioned her tone, she withdrew, cold, silent, distant. Silence became punishment. I found myself apologizing for things I didn't understand. "I didn't mean to upset you," I'd say. She'd respond calmly. "I know. You're learning." That word again. Learning. The confession came on a Thursday. We were sitting in her upper-level sitting room, the rain tapping softly against the glass ceiling. She looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before. "Elliot," she said, not looking at me, "you remind me of my son." The air left my lungs. "I didn't know you had a son," I said carefully. "Had," she corrected, past tense. My mouth went dry. "I'm sorry." She finally looked at me. He was 35. Kind, brilliant. Her fingers tightened around the glass. "And he left. Left this world. I failed him," she whispered. "I didn't protect him enough." She reached for my hand, gripping it hard. "I won't make that mistake again." Something inside me screamed wrong. "You're not my son," I said gently, "and I'm not a replacement." Her expression changed instantly. Flat, controlled. "No," she said. "You're better." My heart started pounding. "You're here." That night, she asked me to promise something. "Promise you won't disappear," she said. "Promise you'll tell me before you leave." I nodded. I don't know why. Fear has a way of sounding like reason. The key was the last straw. I woke up to the sound of my apartment door unlocking. Every muscle in my body locked. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and stepped into the living room. She stood there in the dark, holding a spare key. "You didn't answer," she said softly. I was worried. I snapped. "You can't just walk into my home," I shouted. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Her face hardened. "This is what caretakers do," she said. "We check. I'm not your child," I yelled. "And this is over?" The silence afterward felt heavy, charged. Then she smiled. "You'll understand," she said quietly. Eventually, 2 days later, I went to the police. They listened, took notes, looked bored. "She hasn't threatened you directly," the officer said. "You accepted financial support voluntarily." I walked out feeling small and exposed. That night, she called. Her voice was gentle. "Don't involve strangers," she said. "It hurts me." A pause, and when I hurt, things fall apart. The next morning, a dead bird was pinned to my door. Carefully, deliberately. That's when I packed my car. I didn't sleep after the bird. I stood in my apartment staring at it, feathers stiff, neck twisted at an unnatural angle. Pinned with surgical care. No blood splatter. No mess. It wasn't rage. It was a message. My hands shook as I unlocked my phone. I didn't call her. I didn't answer anything. I just started packing fast, sloppy, throwing clothes into duffel bags, knocking over a lamp, breaking a glass I didn't bother to clean up. By sunrise, my car was full. I didn't have a plan, just a direction. West. As I pulled out of Millbrook, my chest felt tight, like I was doing something illegal just by leaving. Every red light felt too long. Every car behind me felt intentional. At a gas station 2 hours out, I stopped to refuel. My hands were trembling so badly I spilled gas on my shoes. Inside, I paid cash. When I came back out, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. I knew. I drove for 12 hours straight. Slept in my car. Changed my number the next day. Took back roads. Paid cash. Stayed nowhere long enough to feel real. For weeks, I existed like a shadow. I landed in Ridgecrest, Oregon. Got a junior drafting position under a different email. Told no one where I was. I worked, ate, slept, survived. 3 months passed, then 6, then a year. No messages, no photos, no birds. Life slowly resumed. I found a small apartment, painted the walls, bought a plant, let myself believe it was over. That was my mistake. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was leaving work early, rain misting the parking lot. As I reached my car, something caught my eye on the windshield. An envelope, cream-colored, neatly placed. My heart dropped into my stomach. Inside was a photograph. Me, taken from across the street. On the back, written in the same careful handwriting, "You look healthier." I'm glad. I threw up in the parking lot. The police here took it more seriously. Maybe because time had passed. Maybe because fear had finally learned how to speak clearly. They documented everything, took statements, told me to stay alert. But fear doesn't disappear when it's acknowledged. It sharpens. I started checking locks obsessively. Windows, shadows, reflections. Every woman with auburn hair made my pulse spike. Years have passed now. I've moved again. New firm, new city, new routines. On paper, I'm free. But sometimes, late at night, when my phone buzzes unexpectedly, my chest tightens. Because belonging, real belonging, should feel safe. And the worst thing I ever learned is this. Some people don't want love. They want permanence. And permanence doesn't require consent. I don't know where she is. I don't know if she's watching. But every morning I wake up, take a breath, and remind myself, I am not owned, even if part of me still feels like I am. I never imagined my life would shrink this small. There was a time doesn't feel that long ago when I believed I was doing everything right. College degree, no criminal record, no addictions, no major screw-ups. I thought that was enough. Turns out, in America, that just means you're one bad year away from drowning. I'm 31 now, but when this story started, I was 28 and living in a one-bedroom apartment above a closed-down pawn shop in Hollister Row, Indiana. The kind of place where the stairs creak no matter how softly you step and the hallway always smells faintly like mildew and old cigarettes. Rent was cheap, but only because the landlord didn't care if the heat cut out twice a month. I worked remote customer support for a logistics company based out of Denver. Flexible hours, they called it. What that really meant was 12-hour shifts, angry callers, and a paycheck that barely covered rent and utilities. When my dad passed away suddenly from a stroke, everything tipped. Funeral costs, medical bills, time off work I couldn't afford. My savings evaporated in less than 3 months. By winter, I was skipping meals without really admitting it to myself. You start calling it intermittent fasting so it doesn't feel like poverty. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that something would break my way. Instead, my hours got cut. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, refreshing my banking app like it might magically change. $46. That was it. Rent was due in 10 days. I laughed out loud. A short, ugly sound. That's when I remembered the ad. I'd seen it weeks earlier while doom scrolling at 2 a.m. Some sponsored post buried between crypto scams and self-help gurus. Discreet arrangements, no judgment, mutual benefit. I downloaded the app without thinking too hard. Told myself I was just curious. The app didn't look sleazy. No neon colors, no half-naked profiles. Just muted tones and bios written like business proposals. People stating exactly what they wanted, no pretending. That scared me more than anything. I created a profile using an old photo clean shirt, decent lighting. I hesitated before filling out the expectations section. Finally, I typed, looking for stability, open to guidance. Guidance. Another word I didn't examine too closely. That's when Renee Whitlow messaged me. Her profile picture was simple. Late 50 seconds. Gray-brown hair pulled back tight. Pearl earrings. Sharp eyes that looked like they missed nothing. Her bio read, widowed, traditional values. I support those who respect boundaries and structure. Structure again. We chatted that night. And the next. She didn't flirt. She didn't ask for photos. She asked about my bills, my credit score, my plans. You seem lost, she typed at one point. I stared at that message for a long time before replying. Yeah, I am. Her response came instantly. That's not a flaw. It's an opportunity. She invited me to dinner that weekend. Her house was outside Briar Creek, about an hour's drive. She offered gas money up front. Venmo notification hit my phone before I could respond. That should have been my second warning. Renee's house sat at the edge of a wooded neighborhood where the mailboxes all matched and the lawns were trimmed within an inch of their lives. White, colonial, black shutters. American flag on the porch, perfectly folded at night. She greeted me with a warm smile and a firm handshake. Shoes off, she said kindly. I keep the floors clean. Inside, everything smelled like lemon polish and cooked meat. The living room was pristine, untouched. Family photos lined the mantel. Her late husband, younger Renee, and a boy in every stage of growing up. That's Caleb, she said, noticing my glance. My son. He appeared a moment later at the top of the stairs. Early 30s, button-down shirt, hair neatly parted. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Nice to meet you, he said. Mom's told me a bit. That made my stomach tighten. Dinner was pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, comfort food. Renee watched me eat. You can slow down, she said gently. No one's taking it away. I hadn't realized I was eating fast. Conversation stayed polite but guided. She corrected small things. How I held my fork. How I spoke about my job. We don't complain, she said at one point. We adapt. Caleb nodded along, silent. When I reached for salt, her fork tapped the plate. We taste first. I froze, then laughed awkwardly and set it down. I'm just particular, she said, smiling. You understand. I told myself I did. After dinner, she showed me the guest room. Crisp sheets, hospital corners. You're welcome to stay the night, she said. It's late. I hesitated. Caleb spoke up. It's safer than driving tired. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling fan and told myself I was overreacting, that this was just an adjustment. That structure wasn't the same thing as control. I fell asleep convincing myself I needed this. I didn't hear the door open. I didn't hear footsteps. I only woke when something cold and greasy pressed against my lips. I woke up gasping, not screaming, not thrashing, just that sharp inhale, like my lungs forgot what they were supposed to do. For a split second, I didn't know where I was. The ceiling fan above me spun too slowly, clicking once every rotation. The room smelled clean, Too clean, like detergent and something faintly meaty underneath, lingering from dinner. Nothing had happened. That's what I told myself. Still, I checked my mouth with my tongue, half expecting to taste something foreign. There was nothing. No grease, no salt, no gravy. I lay there for a long time, listening to the house settle. Somewhere downstairs, a floorboard creaked. I told myself it was pipes. Old houses always made noise. My heart eventually slowed, and exhaustion dragged me back under. Morning came with sunlight slicing through the curtains. Renee was already up. Of course she was. Breakfast was waiting on the table, scrambled eggs, toast, coffee, poured exactly halfway up the mug. "You sleep okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said automatically. Caleb sat across from me, scrolling his phone. He looked up and smiled. "Mom wakes up early. Always has." Renee nodded. "Discipline matters." I ate quietly. Everything tasted fine. Normal. Too normal. The fear from the night before began to feel silly, like a dream losing its edges. After breakfast, Renee got straight to business. "I don't like ambiguity," she said, folding her hands. "If we're going to do this, expectations need to be clear." She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was cash. More than I'd held in months. "This covers your rent for the next 2 months," she said calmly. "Utilities too. In exchange, I expect honesty, respect." My throat tightened. "And boundaries?" I asked. She smiled. "Of course." Caleb stood. "I've got errands," he said, avoiding my eyes. Before I left that afternoon, Renee hugged me. Tight, lingering. "Eat better," she whispered. "You're too thin." I drove home feeling lighter, safer, ashamed of how relieved I was. The arrangement escalated quickly. Renee texted daily. Not romantic messages. Check-ins. "Did you eat? Send me a photo. You sound tired. Go to bed earlier." She paid off one credit card, then another. I started visiting her house every weekend. Caleb was always there, always polite, always watching. At first, I thought he was just protective. A grown man living with his mother, awkward, but not unheard of. He'd cook sometimes. He'd clean. He deferred to her on everything. "She knows best," he said once, laughing. The phrase stuck with me. Rules started appearing. Subtle at first. No phones at the table. Finish what's on your plate. We eat together. If I disagreed, Renee didn't argue. She just went quiet, and silence from her felt worse than anger. One night, during dinner, I mentioned a job interview. Renee paused mid-bite. "You don't need another job," she said. I just thought, "You're exhausted as it is." She cut in gently. "Why add stress?" Caleb nodded. "Mom's right." I dropped the subject. The first time I felt real fear was during the second overnight stay. Dinner went fine. Renee seemed pleased, almost affectionate. But later, when Caleb and I were upstairs, I heard her moving around below us, cabinets opening, the clink of a spoon against a pot. I leaned toward Caleb. "I think your mom's still cooking. She worries if people don't eat enough," he said. "That's not normal," I whispered. He frowned. "You're overthinking." We went to bed. He fell asleep quickly. I didn't. Sometime after midnight, the door creaked. I froze. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Something cold touched my lips. My eyes flew open. Renee stood over me, spoon in hand, thick brown gravy glistening under the hallway light. Her face was calm, serene. "Midnight snack," she whispered. I gagged and spit. Gravy splattered across her cheek. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. She didn't flinch. "You didn't finish dinner." I shook Caleb awake, my voice cracking. "Caleb, she's feeding me." He blinked, saw the gravy dripping down my chin and sighed. "It's okay," he said softly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Just let her feed you a little, then go back to sleep. Mama knows best." Something inside me broke. I wiped my face with the sheet, shoved past Renee, and ran. Outside, the air was freezing. I didn't stop to think. I grabbed Caleb's car keys from the dresser and bolted. I drove barefoot down the dark road, hands shaking, stomach turning. By the time I hit the highway, dawn was creeping in. My phone buzzed. Renee. Then Caleb. I turned it off. I haven't gone back. Renee never messaged again. Caleb left voicemails. Calm, confused, hurt. It was just care, he said in one. She was helping. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up tasting gravy, and I wonder how many people before me didn't run. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not my friends, not my coworkers, not even the therapist I started seeing 3 weeks later when I couldn't sleep more than 2 hours at a time. I told her I was dealing with boundary issues. That sounded cleaner, safer, like something you could fix with breathing exercises and a journal. The truth was harder to say out loud. The truth was that part of me still felt guilty for leaving. That's what messed me up the most. I moved apartments a month later. New place, different part of town, West Elbridge, closer to the highway, farther from trees. I needed noise. Silence made my skin crawl. Silence reminded me of that house settling at night, of footsteps I couldn't hear until they were already too close. I blocked Renee's number. Caleb found another way. Emails. Long ones. Calm, reasonable, terrifying in their normalcy. Mom's been worried sick. You misunderstood her intentions. She's old-fashioned, not dangerous. You should apologize. It would mean a lot to her. I never replied. 2 months passed. Then 3. Life stabilized on the surface. New job, decent pay. I even started cooking again, simple stuff. Pasta, eggs, but gravy made me nauseous. I stopped ordering anything that came with it. At diners, I'd ask for substitutions and feel stupid for how fast my heart would race. One evening, I came home to find a small package outside my door. No return address. Inside was a glass jar. Gravy. Still warm. My hands shook so badly I dropped it. The jar shattered on the tile, brown liquid spreading across the floor, filling my nose with that same thick, meaty smell. At the bottom of the box was a note, written in careful cursive. You looked thin last time I saw you. I threw up. I called the police. They took a report, asked questions, nodded sympathetically. There's no direct threat, the officer said. Could be a prank. I didn't argue. How do you explain something like this without sounding insane? The emails stopped after that. So did the packages. I thought it was over. A year later, I was doing better. Sleeping, eating, almost normal. That's when I saw the article. Local news. Small headline. Briar Creek woman, arrested in elder abuse investigation. I clicked. Renee Whitlow. 59. Accused of drugging and restraining a live-in caregiver. Her adult son, Caleb Whitlow. Questioned but not charged. The photo showed Renee being led into a squad car, calm, composed, hair pulled back, same pearl earrings. The article mentioned feeding rituals and compliance conditioning. I closed my laptop and sat there for a long time. I didn't feel relief. I felt lucky. Lucky that I ran barefoot into the night instead of convincing myself to stay. Lucky that I still had a life outside of her house. Lucky that the taste in my mouth eventually faded, even if the memory never did. Some nights, when I wake suddenly, I still hear a spoon clink against a plate, and I remind myself, I left. That's the difference. I never thought my life would split cleanly into a before and an after. But looking back now, everything that mattered ended the night I realized I never truly knew the man sleeping beside me. My name is Ivy Calder, and before all of this, I was painfully ordinary. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a vape shop in Hollis Ridge, Ohio, a town that smelled like wet asphalt and fryer oil year-round. I worked mornings at a medical billing office and nights tutoring community college kids who hated algebra more than they hated themselves. My life was quiet, predictable, and lonely in that slow, aching way that sneaks up on you when your 20s start slipping by faster than you planned. Then I met Rowan Pike. Rowan had that careless charm that made you feel younger just standing next to him. He worked warehouse logistics, had crooked teeth he never bothered fixing, and laughed too loud at his own jokes. He was the kind of guy who talked with his hands and called everyone dude, even his mom. On our first date, he spilled his beer all over the bar table and said, "Guess that's a sign I'm nervous, huh?" I laughed. I liked that he wasn't polished. I liked that he didn't feel rehearsed. What I didn't realize back then was that Rowan didn't know where the line was between funny and cruel. At first, the pranks were harmless. He'd hide behind doors and jump out yelling, "Boo!" then double over laughing while I caught my breath. He once replaced my phone ringtone with a recording of himself screaming, which went off in the middle of a dentist's office. Embarrassing, sure, but I laughed it off. "Lighten up," he'd say, grinning. "You scare easy. It's cute." After 6 months, it stopped being cute. He put fake roaches in my cereal box. Swapped my face wash with hair dye, thank God I noticed before using it. Once, while I was showering, he cut the bathroom lights and blasted a police siren sound through a Bluetooth speaker. I screamed so hard the downstairs tenant banged on the ceiling. I told him to stop. Calmly at first. "Rowan, seriously, I don't like this." He kissed my forehead. "Babe, you're fine. It's just jokes." Then, not so calmly, "I'm asking you to stop." He rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic." By the time we hit our 1-year anniversary, I was exhausted. Not just annoyed, emotionally drained, like I was constantly bracing for impact in my own home. I started sleeping lightly, jumping at sounds, flinching when he touched me unexpectedly. I thought about leaving. I think he felt it. Because, suddenly, everything changed. The pranks stopped. Completely. Weeks went by. Then a month. Rowan started cooking dinner. Leaving notes on the fridge, "Drive safe, miss you already." He listened when I talked. Really listened. When I said I was stressed, he didn't joke it away. He hugged me instead. One night, while we were folding laundry, he said, "I know I've been kind of a jerk." I froze, holding a sock. "Kind of." He sighed. "Okay. A lot. I'm trying to be better." I wanted to believe him. When he surprised me with an air fryer, I almost cried. It was expensive, way more than we usually spent on random gifts. "For real?" I asked, staring at the box. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," he said, beaming. "You've been talking about it forever." I went all over Northway Electronics trying to find the best one. That should have been my first red flag. Rowan hated shopping, hated patience, hated effort, but I pushed the thought aside. People can change, right? I dragged the box into the kitchen and started unpacking it. Manuals, warranty cards, styrofoam. Everything looked factory fresh, until I pulled open the bottom tray. Something rolled. At first, my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Grayish skin. A nail painted a chipped, burnt orange. A jagged bit of bone protruding from one end. A finger. A real finger. I screamed. The air fryer slipped from my hands and crashed onto the tile. The finger bounced once, twice, then came to rest near the fridge. Rowan ran in. "What happened?" I was shaking so hard my teeth hurt. I picked the finger up. It was cold. Soft in a way plastic never is. "You think this is funny?" I yelled. "You think this is okay?" He stared at it, his smile gone. Ivy, I swear to God, I didn't do that. Don't lie to me." My voice cracked. "You promised you were done." "I am done," he said quietly. "I didn't put that there." Something in his tone gave me pause. Not panic, not guilt, fear. I made a snap decision. "Then we're calling the cops." He hesitated just a second too long, then nodded. "Yeah, okay, let's go." He sealed the finger in a sandwich bag and drove us to the Hollis Ridge Police Department. The whole way, I waited for him to confess, to laugh, to say, "Got you." He never did. Outside the station, I said, "Last chance. If this is a joke, say it now." He looked straight ahead. "If it is, I didn't put it there." I got out of the car. He didn't. The engine revved. Tires squealed. Rowan drove away with the evidence. That was the last time I ever saw him alive. The cops took my statement, but without proof, it went nowhere. Missing boyfriend. Strange story. No body, no crime. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to Northway Electronics. The employee at the counter glanced at Rowan's photo and immediately stiffened. Oh, him. She told me security had escorted him out after catching him opening appliance boxes in the air fryer aisle. Her nails were painted the same burnt orange. I asked about it. My sister uses the same color. She said, Lennox. She works here too. Or did. She hasn't shown up in a week. My stomach dropped. We checked the aisle together. Every box. Every tray. Fingers. Teeth. An ear. An eye. All real. All human. The police arrested Rowan the next day in an abandoned meatpacking plant outside town. On the news, reporters asked him why. He just smiled and said, I thought it was funny. They found Lennox Pike, his older sister, in pieces across 3 counties. He never explained more than that. I moved away after the trial, changed my name, started over. But sometimes, when I hear a sudden noise behind me, when I open a drawer I don't remember opening, I still feel that cold, impossible weight in my hand. And I remember how easily love can turn into terror. Not all at once, but slowly, like a joke that goes on too long. I never thought I'd download an app like that. Not because I was above it, because I was scared of what it meant about me. I was 23, living in a narrow, off-campus apartment that smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet, the kind of place where the radiator knocked like someone trapped inside the walls. I'd moved to Hollis Ridge, Ohio for college with big plans and a dumb amount of hope. Psychology major, first in my family to even try university. My mom worked doubles at a nursing home back in Dayton. My dad disappeared when I was 16, left behind an empty driveway and a stack of bills with his name on them. By my junior year, Hope didn't pay rent. I was 2 months behind. My electricity had already been shut off once. I ate ramen so often my stomach hurt just thinking about it. I worked nights at a bar off Route 17, pouring drinks for men who tipped better if you laughed at jokes that weren't funny. Still wasn't enough. That's when I found the ad. It didn't say sugar mommy. It said, discreet companionship, generous allowance, no intimacy required, professional women only. I laughed out loud at first, like, yeah, sure, sounds legit. But at 3 in the morning, with my bank app open and a negative balance staring back at me, the laughter died quick. I downloaded the app, didn't tell anyone, didn't even use my real last name. That was the first mistake. Her profile name was Evelyn Hartwell. No pictures, just a black background and a short bio. I value honesty, intelligence, and emotional awareness. I help those who listen. I almost swiped past it. Then the message came in. Evelyn, you're awake late. That usually means worry. My chest tightened. I told myself it was coincidence. Me, just studying. 3 dots appeared immediately. Evelyn, no, you're calculating. Rent, tuition, groceries. You skipped dinner again. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Me, that's a pretty safe guess for a college student. Evelyn, you tell yourself that so you don't panic. I should have closed the app right there. Instead, I replied, our conversations didn't feel flirtatious. They felt clinical, calm, focused. She asked about my classes, my childhood, my sleep schedule, what scared me most about failing. She never pushed for photos, never asked to meet, never crossed a sexual line. Then, 2 days later, she sent me $500. No warning, no request, just a message. Evelyn, for groceries. Eat something warm tonight. I cried in my kitchen, full-on ugly cried, because no one had ever noticed things like that about me before. We established an arrangement, weekly allowance, daily conversation, total discretion. She called it emotional presence. I called it survival. That's when the weird stuff started. She'd message me before I opened the app. Evelyn, don't take the bus tonight. Walk. I ignored it once. That night, the bus I would have taken hit a drunk driver at an intersection near campus. 2 people injured. I watched it on the local news, hands shaking. Another time, Evelyn, your professor is going to move the exam. Stop stressing. An hour later, mass email. Exam postponed. I joked about it. Me, what are you, psychic? She didn't reply for a long time. Then, Evelyn, I pay attention. That answer stuck with me in a way I couldn't explain. We finally agreed to meet after a month. Public place. Daytime. My rules. She chose Briarstone Cafe, a quiet spot near the river where grad students pretended to work. She was already there when I arrived. Mid 50 seconds, sharp eyes, expensive coat that didn't belong in Ohio weather. Calm posture, like nothing ever rushed her. Sit, she said gently. Not rude, just certain. We talked for hours. She knew details I didn't remember telling her. My high school mascot. The name of my childhood dog. The fact that I used to lock my bedroom door even when no one else was home. That's not normal, I said finally, trying to laugh it off. She smiled. Normal is a story people tell themselves. When we stood to leave, she touched my wrist lightly. You don't have to be afraid, she said. I'm already keeping you safe. That was the first time I felt real fear. After that, the control started slipping through the cracks. She told me what classes to skip, which friends were temporary, which routes to walk home. And every time I didn't listen, something happened. Small things at first. Missed opportunities, lost items, a locked door when I needed it open. Then bigger. One night she messaged, Evelyn, don't go home yet. Me. Why? Evelyn. Because someone is waiting there. I called the police instead. They found a man in the alley behind my building. No charges. Probably a misunderstanding. Evelyn sent my allowance early that week. I tried to quit. Typed out a long message about boundaries, independence, gratitude, but finality. Before I could send it, she messaged me. Evelyn, if you leave, you'll lose your scholarship. My phone buzzed immediately after. Email notification. Academic review pending due to irregular attendance. I dropped the phone. How are you doing this? I whispered to my empty apartment. Her reply came slow. Evelyn, I don't do anything. Systems do. That night, I dug. I Googled her name. Fake. No records. No trace. Then I checked the payment source. Not a person. A trust. Connected to a shell company. Connected to a research firm I'd never heard of. Hartwell Behavioral Systems. Government adjacent. Predictive analytics. Human pattern modeling. I wasn't a sugar baby. I was a data point. The last time we spoke, I confronted her. You're using me. There was a pause longer than usual. Evelyn, you volunteered. I didn't consent to this. Evelyn, consent is only meaningful when all outcomes are visible. My chest burned. What do you want from me? Another pause. Evelyn, to see how far fear can replace freedom before a person notices. I deleted the app, blocked the payments, reported the company. Nothing happened. 2 weeks later, the money stopped. My scholarship was reinstated. The app vanished from the store, like it never existed. But sometimes, when my phone lights up at night with no notification, I swear I can feel someone watching me calculate my next move. Still paying attention. I never planned to be the kind of person who chased abandoned places on a Friday night. But life has a way of pulling you toward the things that make you feel alive when everything else feels flat. I grew up in a small Midwestern town where nothing ever really happened. Same diners, same faces, same gossip, recycled every few months. My dad worked maintenance at the county courthouse. My mom bounced between waitressing jobs. And I learned early that if I wanted excitement, I'd have to go looking for it myself. That's how I met Brielle Knox when we were 15, 2 bored girls skipping rocks behind a condemned movie theater, daring each other to sneak inside. That night changed everything. The smell of dust and mildew, the way our footsteps echoed, the thrill of knowing we weren't supposed to be there. From then on, Urban exploration became our thing. Brielle brought a camera everywhere. She said she wanted to document places before they vanished. I didn't care about the pictures, I cared about the feeling. Being somewhere forgotten, standing in a space where time had stopped. By our mid-20s, we'd explored abandoned hospitals, half-collapsed roller rinks, shuttered malls with vines growing through the skylights. We were careful, though, always daylight or early evening. Always told someone where we were going. Always rules. Rule number 1, never split up. Rule number 2, never touch freezers or sealed rooms. Rule number 3, if something feels off, you leave. No debate. Those rules kept us safe for years. Then I met Colton Reyes. Colton came into my life quietly. He worked HVAC, had oil-stained hands, and a crooked smile that made people trust him faster than they should. He listened when I talked. He laughed at the right moments. After a childhood of instability, that kind of steadiness felt intoxicating. He didn't love the urban exploring, but he tolerated it. I don't get the appeal, he told me once, sitting on my couch with a beer. Creepy buildings, tetanus waiting to happen. I shrugged. You don't have to get it. It's my thing. He smiled, but something flickered behind his eyes. I ignored it. Brielle didn't like him. She never outright said it, but she didn't have to. The way she'd go quiet when he entered a room. The way she'd roll her eyes when he teased me about my trespassing hobby. Just keep your guard up, she said one night as we walked back to her car after exploring an abandoned textile mill. Guys like that don't like sharing control. I laughed it off. 2 months ago, on a Thursday afternoon, Brielle called me. Hey, she said, breathless. I need you Saturday night. For what? There's an old burger barn off Route 11, the one near Maple Hollow. I groaned. We've already been there. It's trashed. Totally gutted. I know, she said quickly, but it's getting demolished Sunday morning. This is the last night. It was our first spot together, remember? I did remember. Sneaking in through a busted drive-through window, laughing so hard we nearly gave ourselves away. I don't know, I said. I was planning a quiet night with Colton. There was a pause. Then Brielle said softly, please, for me. That should have been my first warning. I told Colton I'd be gone a few hours. He didn't argue, just kissed my forehead and said, be careful. The burger barn sat at the edge of town, surrounded by weeds and orange construction fencing already half torn down. The sky was that dull purple blue that comes right before night fully settles in. Inside, the place felt emptier than I remembered. Booths gone, counters stripped bare. The kitchen looked like a rib cage, exposed pipes, broken tiles, nothing left of value. Brielle, though, was glowing. She snapped photos nonstop, murmuring things like, this light is perfect, and God, this feels like goodbye. I wandered near the kitchen, uneasy. Brie, I said, I think we've seen enough. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me strangely and asked, aside from Colton, no one knows we're here, right? I frowned. What? Just answer. No, I said slowly. Why? Her head tilted. Do you hear that? I listened. Wind rattling loose metal outside. That was it. I don't hear anything. It's coming from the walk-in freezer. My stomach dropped. Absolutely not, I said. You remember the rule. I know, she said quickly. Just a peek. Together. 5 seconds. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. But this was Brielle, my best friend, the one person I trusted without question. Fine, I said. 5 seconds. She pulled the freezer door open. No smell, just darkness. I leaned forward and pain exploded at the back of my skull. I woke up choking on cold air. Pitch black. Metal walls. The freezer. Panic surged through me as I slammed my hands against the door. It didn't move. Brielle, I screamed. What the hell are you doing? Footsteps outside. Then a man's voice. Colton's. My blood turned to ice. Is she out? He asked. Yeah, Brielle replied. If she's lucky, she won't wake up before morning. Before the bulldozers. They were going to bury me alive. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from sobbing. My phone was gone. No signal anyway. No way out. Time blurred. Minutes. Hours. My breath fogged the air. Then I had an idea. I pounded weakly on the door. "Brielle?" I croaked. I wrote a letter. It's in my jacket. For Colton. If they find my body." Silence. Then frantic whispering. Finally, footsteps. The door cracked open. I lunged. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember thinking. I just shoved them hard backward into the freezer, slammed the door, jammed the broken latch. Their screams echoed behind the metal. I took my phone from Brielle's bag and ran. I didn't call the police. 3 hours later, the building came down. 5 hours after that, their bodies were found, locked together, frozen. I still explore abandoned places sometimes, but I never go with anyone I don't trust completely. And I never break the rules.